All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the STGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. But the QA is the important part because this week we've got questions and we've got answers. Or I should say, I have questions, you have questions, and I have two wonderful co-hosts to answer your questions. No rambling further ado from Juan. We're gonna get in and we're gonna chat about all of the cool tech that was announced, that was revealed last week in Las Vegas for CES. And so to start off our trio here, our trio of monkey shining, shenaniganing tech nerds, I of course have to bring in my buddy from the Best of Our Week podcast, one Mr. TK Bay.
Hey, how you doing? Sabaho, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Sorry,
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
haven't used Restream
TK
before.
didn't make it to the sound check, so
No.
we're doing our mic check live. Mic
Yeah.
check. Mic check.
1 2 1 2.
1 2.
We're good. 1 2 1
Well,
2.
we didn't get to do a Best of Our Week podcast last week just because of travel and weather and projects that we were all lining up on. So we're gonna kind of mimic the Best of Our Week format here, and that brings me to the other addition to our triumvirate is my brother in arms, my buddy from our classic Pocket Now podcasting days, one Mr. Adam Doud, now at Slash Gear. Adam, thank you so much for jumping in on the show.
Oh, hi! And if I may echo your for so many different reasons.
It's been a week, man.
It's the first week of 2023. Yes, and it's a week. It was 1 week for all weeks to be basically, but yeah, I just got back a couple of days ago. Actually, I came in on Friday night, and I don't know how long you stayed in, Adam, but it was tough. I came in on Tuesday, and it was hit the ground running. I literally
Tuesday through Friday for me as well. So we were probably at the airport around the same time.
That seemed to be the sort of way of CES this year. I felt bad because we had some of our other sort of tech acquaintances and tech friendships. You could kind of tell there were a few guys who were like, yeah, I've sort of been sponsored to cover the whole show. And look, here's CES at Saturday. How exciting. And you're like, they wanted to be back on an airplane already. You knew that they weren't really there because they were really covering that stuff.
I remember in 2000, I think it was 2016, my first one, I booked, all my travel, Pocket Now days. So I booked all my travel myself. And I booked all the way through like Sunday night or Saturday night or whatever the last day was. Like, I don't remember because they've shifted around. They've shifted around, but I booked all the way through the last day of CES, and I walked in on the show floor on the last day, and like, well, first of all through the week, journalist friends were like, why? And then I got there on the last day and I found out why they were asking that, because like half the stuff was already being taken down. Like they were striking the set like as they were giving demos. It was so deeply weird. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing that again.
I miss because again, I haven't been to a CES in a couple of years, but the very first CES I went to, I did the same. I was like, I booked for the entire week, but that last day used to be flea market day, where companies that didn't want to cart all their stuff back, you could get gear. Like, you could just walk up and, hey, I was interested in your, like, and they, here, take it. And then they like go back to packing up their displays. That doesn't happen anymore.
I want to say that it's less and less likely. I only got handed one piece of gear this entire CES, and it was a gaming controller from our buddies, Juan Gameser. I ran into them at, I want to say, Showstoppers.
Did you get the thermo electric cooler one?
No, so I got the custom Xbox controller, the one, the custom played Xbox controller.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I got that one, so we're gonna start working on that. But yeah, no, they were happy to see us, and there was. I'll say this: it felt like, well, it's better than last year, but I still feel like we weren't back to 100. Like, it didn't feel like you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, if you were there, you were like, yeah, this doesn't feel like pre-pandemic. It still feels like there's something still missing. But yeah.
Well,
So
I'm proud
I
to
want to.
say the entire week I did not shake one hand the entire time.
Yes, excellent. Like I've
Team
gotten into
fist
the
bump.
habit of like elbow and fist bumps. Yep,
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. And even for that, I'd still probably have been carting around, a tub, like a horse trough of hand sanitizer, just because I'm now so paranoid about getting anything. It's not even COVID anymore. I just know my immune system can't handle the flu. So
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was surprised the level though, like from last year to this year with CES though, we had sanitizers everywhere, masks available everywhere. They handed out, COVID tests, the Abbott testing that we did last year. This year was very different. They announced the testing at the end, almost when people were leaving, and if people
Yeah.
are
great.
stayed that late, but no sanitizer, nothing. Like you just walked in. It was again, it felt better, but it was kind of like
Yeah.
okay,
See,
like
that kind of stuff still makes me a little nervous because it's not like we don't have a new variant kind of taken over for COVID, and that's the
mhm,
perfect petri dish to come up with all
Yes, it
kinds of
is.
spicy new diseases.
with
So
And
everybody
I do
touching
want to
everything.
cover
yeah.
proper CES, but this is also the best of our week. So I'm gonna go first because I
Sure.
didn't go to Vegas. I got stuck working on two small projects that ended up kind of covering my mortgage for this month. So I
Can't
couldn't
argue with
make
that.
the
Mm-mm.
expenses work for going out. But I did treat myself to my holiday gift from my partners over at Slick Deals.
Mhm.
So as something of like a Christmas bonus, they sent over a ridiculously big box of
Redonkulously
Lego.
massive. Yep. Yep.
It's incredible. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna try. Let's see if I can. That's come on.
Hi.
Hey, Adam. So I'm going to try a screen share here. I have no idea how well this is. Oh, my door to the office is still open, so that means Marie can hear this whole podcast. I'm sure she loves that.
Hi,
Hold
Marie.
on. Let's see if this borks the whole stream. Ta-da!
There you go. Oh my
Hey!
goodness, that
So
is
this is.
incredible.
Yeah, I'm going to close the door over here too. So this
Oh
is
my god.
the UCS, the Ultimate Collector Series Lego AT-AT,
Oh
and
my
it
god.
stands, about 2 feet tall. It's a little more than 2 feet wide, and it's like the most detailed
Oh.
Lego set I've ever seen in my entire life. There's actually like a joystick in the frame where you can move the AT-AT's head around.
Oh my god,
It's
seriously? That's awesome.
it's to scale with a minifig, so you might not be able to see it so well on stream. That's Luke
That's
oh
doing
my
the
trying
whole
to-
god,
zip
yeah.
line
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
that guy.
up, and he only stands about as tall as like the first layer of this foot. So it is almost perfectly to scale with the minifig, and
That
then
is
it's got all
awesome.
kinds of little pull-out spots. So like
Oh
it's got a
my
little
god.
door bay that you can open, so like
Oh,
people with blasters can like
wow.
shoot at all those dirty rebels. Um,
Oh
it's
my
kind of
god.
hard to get it back
Get it closed in there.
closed. You know what?
We're
I'm
good.
just gonna take this whole panel off. So it's
Oh
not
my
a
god.
toy.
No, no, no.
It's like a full display for a
Yeah.
collector. And let me just take this off here.
Oh, the
Oh
whole
my
thing is
god, that
that's
comes
a-
off?
the whole thing is an
Yeah.
assembly.
That's amazing.
So it actually has like water and heating reclamation units. It's got bays for all kinds of little snow troopers so that
Oh
they can
my
all go
god,
and
look at that.
attack. It has a complement of snow speeder bikes. So like bikes can pop out and then go fly after those rebels. And
Oh
then
my god.
the head does have a cockpit. I can't get over there to actually show the head.
Yeah.
But
I'm
you
I'm
can-
actually
you can
nervous just
open
watching
it.
you walk around this.
So Marie was like saying like, hey, you need to get pictures of this. This took 3 days to build.
I don't doubt it.
Um,
I don't,
I
yeah.
rebuilt the engine on a 1988 Toyota Camry in 2 days. This took 3 days to build.
Are we
Um,
talking like 8-hour stretches, or are we talking like just here and there, or
No, like so for the last 2 days, for the first day, I was like, oh, let me just kind of put a couple bags together, go take a break, put a couple bags together, go take a break. For Saturday and Sunday, I sat at this desk from when I got out of bed till it was time for dinner. And
my
both of those, it took both of those days to put everything together here.
oh, that's
So
incredible.
it's 6,700 Legos, and now I'm not entirely sure where I want to put it.
Yeah. I mean, total honesty, Juan. That's the reason I don't have one of those right now is because I don't know
Oh,
where
yeah.
the heck I would put it.
Oh my
I mean,
God!
So
Yeah.
now I
I just
also have to fix this little door here. You guys keep talking. Here, hold on one second.
I went a lot more manageable when it comes to it. I got my baby Groot.
Oh yeah. Oh, that baby Groot kid is so fun though.
He's
Juan,
so
you're
adorable.
Fully
missing one of
articulated.
these though.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, can we get
Oh,
this?
you got the snow speeder.
Oh, sweet. I like that.
Oh,
You
that's
need one of
great.
these though to get the set complete, because you know what happens.
Right.
You need one of
True.
these to bring down one of those. You know what I mean?
So,
True. That is very
I
true.
wonder again, because like that's proper minifig scale. I wonder like how close that is to actually being to scale with all of these things, because that's the thing that's really blown me away about this.
Oh,
is
yeah.
how close it really is to being movie accurate.
Yeah.
I might break a whole bunch more stuff, but I just want to see if I can get the joystick to work here, because the head
Oh, I saw
head
it.
kinda
Yeah, right
tilts.
there. Yeah.
So you can kind of
You got the little
serpentine
dial at the top.
bend the head there, and then the little
That's
blasters
crazy.
recoil. So when
Oh,
you
nice.
shoot one, the other
one comes out.
bounces back. So yeah, this
Yeah.
was the folks at Slick Deals were like, hey, we don't really do like Christmas bonuses or anything, but
But we'll give you
we
a
wanted to
weekend
surprise
project.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
mean, hey,
I
that's a
wouldn't
good Christmas bonus, guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't shut up about it. We've done a bunch of like Lego shopping videos, and we're like, yeah, this is like the 5th largest Lego set ever created still. And I just they like, hey, we found one for cheap, so here you go. Like, okay.
Next year, Death Star.
Yeah, next year. I would say
exactly,
Death
a
Star, or you
UCS
got to go
Millennium
for the
Falcon.
Star Destroyer.
Oh, the Star.
Oh,
Yeah, because I was gonna say Millennium Falcon is not that complicated one. My son and I did the Millennium Falcon. It's actually really nice, but it took us maybe a day and a half. I don't think it's it's much smaller in scale. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Because I have the X-wing singing on the other side as well.
Now I'm debating, because like the newest sort of UCS big model is the Hulkbuster, and I have my shelf.
I've seen that.
Oh, I think if I turn that way, I have my shelf of Lego Iron Man armors, and the tall Iron Man, the $30 Iron Man that you can get, he stands about yay high, actually fits inside the new Hulkbuster.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well, I mean, now you have to buy it. I'm sorry.
I mean, I already have part of it. Now I have an incomplete set.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
that's the justification, I think.
Right? So
my God.
I don't know that I can bring myself to spend $600 on a Hulkbuster kit.
Dude, man, you put it in your
so-
background, it's tax deductible because it's a set
That's true.
decoration.
Yeah.
I just did this on podcast, so I'm gonna tell the folks at Slick Deals, like, hey, you guys can write that off on your taxes now.
Yeah.
They already could. They didn't need my permission.
Right.
They've been coming out with some good deals though. Slick Deals this morning. I saw the what's it called? The year of Xbox Ultimate for about like $34. That was crazy. I got to grab that one. That was nice.
That was a good buy.
Yep.
So
Yeah, one whole year.
I'm really looking forward to getting back in studio with them and just nerding out on a whole bunch of new gear. That like those are some of the videos that have done really well for no good reason, or just like, hey, let's talk about Lego deals. Like I get to play with Legos. That's
For no reason?
that's
For
great.
every reason, man. Come on. Are you
Heck
crazy?
yeah. Good deal. Okay, so that was the best of my week. I'm now super anxious. Like, I think I need to like put it back on the floor, because Marie was saying like you got to get pictures of it, because if ever there was going to be a good time for California to have an earthquake, it would be right now.
As soon as Swan finishes his setup. Exactly.
6,700 Legos all over the floor. I'm
To show
sure
you
that'll
how
go back
quickly we can
together.
get it. No, you have to figure out a place, but yeah.
I'll have to see if any of the time lapse footage really came out, because I did try to do a time lapse kind of build, but over 3 days it was really obnoxious trying to set up cameras for every piece. I got it to the point where you're putting the body on the legs, and 2 plugs. I mirrored 2 plugs at the very beginning of the build, and it blocked the little arms that insert the body. And it took me an hour to partially disassemble enough that I could reverse the 2 plugs so that then the body would sit into the frame. It's hilarious.
Happens to all of us, my friend. Happens to all of us, even on the smaller builds.
I'm trying to build, I'm really in the flow. You kind of go, flow state where you're not really paying attention. You're just looking at all the pieces and parts, and you've got like a desk covered in stuff. And it
Yep.
really was. It was two little plugs that the frame needed to connect, and that took me an hour to backtrack.
Ouch.
So
Ouch.
it was definitely an engineering project that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something. I'm gonna have to check out that time lapse footage just to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think it'll be great. And I'll say this: I didn't have well, we did have a Lego to put together. At least my son and I over the holiday, we got a little John Deere thing. But when it comes down, at least for me, for the best of our week, it was something that I got a chance to check out that you played with weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I finally got a chance to meet Optimus Prime in his full prime, the transformation and even with the trailer. This is what blew me out. The trailer is freaking awesome. And they also had so this is the folks over at RoboSense during, I think was it PepCom or Showstopper, one of the two events. They had a little booth, and they had the demo or I guess the early hardware for the Buzz Lightyear one that they're going to be coming out very soon. It wasn't functional, but it was standing there. And then, of course, they were showing off Optimus doing karate, high kicks, back kicks, sit-ups, like twisting around. I'm like, I'm like, so many things. Like the back kick was knocking me out, but also the fact that he did a high kick, the balancing mechanics, and then even just showing the trailer opening up with the little car with the laser like all of that stuff. I was just going crazy. So I wanted to steal that one. I wanted to run away with that one, but there was just too many people. I figured maybe next year. But that was that for me, with all the tech that I saw, that for me took me back to my childhood. That just throw me right back. Yeah. So the one that Juan's putting up there, this is the way you imagine Optimus Prime when you bought the Optimus Prime back when you were a kid. If you ever bought the trailer with the Transformer, that's how you envisioned him playing. And this is him.
Oh, this trailer. There we go. I was like, the trailer was just like giving us that slow, like Transformers lead in, but
yeah. Oh, look at that.
The voice commands are incredible. Because you got to play, I think you played with Flagship. I have Elite Optimus Prime. Flagship.
They were all
Optimus
amazing. I'll say that.
Is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But the thing I really like is one of the main differences is Flagship just has a bigger battery. So it's not like if you got the Elite, suddenly you have a lesser than robot. It's just it doesn't last as long when you're really doing all of your sort of programming and voice command tricks. You can't play with him as long.
They were using so they were using the program, the controller on their smartphone. Because as you can imagine, voice commands would not work there. I would have been screaming over everybody else. Like,
I'm just starting to figure out how to program it, because I'm trying to get them. I'm trying to figure out how to program individual servos so that you can make them dance. So the demos that you were doing, like superhero landing, the ground punch.
They did that one. Yeah.
I want to see if I can make them floss, and I want to see if I can make them pop and lock. So
oh my god!
We'll have to play with
make the robot do the robot. Okay,
hashtag life goals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, it's stuff like this. It's like I hate being the nostalgic old dude. But like getting 6,700 Legos in the shape of one of my all-time favorite movie moments from Star Wars, or getting an actual robot transforming Optimus Prime. Yep. It's the most I've felt like a little kid in years, and it kind of takes you immediately back to like all of that crazy fandom and stuff. So
there was quite a bit of nostalgia going on at CES this year. I saw a lot of older tech still around, kind of surprising. Like a cassette player for some reason still exists.
Really?
Like like an
that.
I think was it called not boombox, but like open big box or something to the word box. But I even took a picture, and I need to find where I forgot which phone I took the picture with. But they basically retrofitted it with an MP3 player using an SD card, so a micro SD card option, a USB connection. But for the most part, it's a boombox. It still had the cassette player, the big speakers on the side with the dials and all of that. So I was like, okay, retro tech with new, It was crazy. Like I'm walking, I'm like, are you sure it's 2020? I mean, I don't even think they make cassettes anymore.
I was gonna ask, did either of you guys happen by was there like a Ricoh or a Pentax booth? because they're talking about bringing back. They're going to be building their
No, I
first new
didn't.
film camera
Okay.
in years.
I
And it
didn't.
seems
Yeah.
like this is the right time for nostalgic tech. I mean, vinyl is on the rise. Like
Mhm.
collectors like collecting vinyl. A boombox with a cassette tape still built into it, and
At
now we've
CES.
got a company that's looking at trying to repopularize consumer-facing film cameras.
Mhm.
At the same time that like 10-year-old digital point and shoots are becoming the aesthetic cameras for TikTokers and Instagrammers. I mean, again, I love this because I'm the cranky old dude and I used to really play with all this gear, but it's like, you're playing with the things that I used to play. That's me tech. That's like when I was a kid.
What,
You're
but that
nerds.
and a lot of the trending songs that you start seeing something also on TikTok and so on are really jumping into retro music as well. Like some songs that we
Yeah.
like, I know my son would never hear or listen to if I was playing it on the radio or anything. Not the radio, but but because it's on TikTok, then suddenly the song makes sense to him and he's just like listening to it.
Yep.
I'm trying to find that picture of me holding the
Well,
boombox. Just
I,
looking
I don't
geeky
know,
as
it's
heck.
because we're all of a similar age, but I did the same thing to my mom when Wayne's World came out. Like, you've got to hear this song, and it's Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen. And she's like, "Yeah, I know, I know."
Yeah. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt.
Sure. What were we gonna say, Adam?
Oh no, I was just I was agreeing with you. That's all. Just been
Let me
there,
see.
done that.
Can I get this
Oh, wait.
to
There
bam
we
right
go.
there?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, there you go. Oh wow,
wow.
So
that is super old school.
and then they also have the bigger version of it. Hold on, so here's the three of them. Let me see if I can get them. So you get the three sizes: the standard, the top, and then the one in the
Dang.
back is the
Full
classic.
full
Yeah, and
ghetto blaster.
they have shortwave, FM, AM, micro SD, USB, all the connections you want. I mean, seriously. I mean, the only thing that got me though is there's no display for you to be able to pick your tracks to be able to play them. So you had to kind of go
Hmm.
and just keep next, next, next if you're putting in like a micro SD card. But the
Mm.
fact that like even the big the red one was selling for like 40 something dollars. It's on Amazon. It's been around for a while, but they were actually showcasing it at CES. I was coming back from from the back of the central hall, and I was like, wait a minute. So they're like, yeah.
Hey.
So yeah, there's
That's
a lot of
us.
interesting things. Yeah.
What's old is still old, but new for some.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Well, so in keeping with the best of our week, and in me showing off what was the best of my week, and TK talking about some quality. I mean, you and I were overdue just hanging out in person, and the next time we
Yeah.
do, I will bring Robot Optimus so that you can really spend some quality time with Robot Optimus. But
Absolutely.
Adam, so in just sort of a general, because we'll dig into individual booths and announcements, and there are
Yeah.
definitely some companies that I want to follow up on. We always talk about what was the best tech of our week, and it could be something that you saw at CES, or it could be something that you used, maybe something that made your show coverage easier, or kept you connected, or was just really fun to nerd out on. Sophie's Choice, what was your one best tech of your week?
It's hard. I mean, and it's funny because I've had this conversation like 5 times from the end of CES, like with various cab drivers and Uber drivers, and my family and whatnot.
Right.
And what I keep coming back to is the Lenovo Yoga 9i, which is Lenovo's dual screen laptop with with
Yeah.
Bluetooth keyboard, and it was just like it's one of those things where like when you're watching a tech demo, you're like, oh yeah, okay, you did that, okay, you did that, and then like they pull something, you're like, oh, okay, you did that. And so it was like one of those things where I had like 2 or 3 of those eye-opening moments, like, oh, that's a thing, that's smart. So I got a chance to play with it for like 10-15 minutes. It's not coming out until like I want to say April or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were showing off, and I had some hands-on time with it, and I was having some fun with it, and I'm just dreaming about the way that this is going to optimize my like mobile workspace,
Right.
because because I'm like probably a lot of people where I don't necessarily have one place where I work. And I mean,
Yeah.
in my
Right.
case, it's usually like different places around the house, like the kitchen table, the living room, or something like that. But still, like I'm just dreaming about ways that, oh yeah, I could use this in bed, and then I can use this at the kitchen table, and I'd still have 2 screens, and it would be, yeah. So I mean, that to me is, like Lenovo's one of those companies that they'll make, a bunch of laptops that companies will order 10,000 of for their fleets, but then they use that money to like pour it into some weird crap. And then
Yeah.
and this year it seemed like Lenovo had a lot of weird stuff that they wanted to show off, like
Well,
more than usual.
but do you feel that this is really super weird? Because we were all very excited about Surface Neo when we saw that
Right.
as a concept.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's weird in that it's definitely non-traditional,
Right.
but it's also like this. You're um, Salesforce is not going to order 10,000 of these to
No,
distribute to their.
you're
So
absolutely that's fair. Yeah.
yeah, and like the one really cool thing that I thought about was like when you have that open like in laptop form where like the one screen is on the table and the other screen's up, if you touch the screen with 8 fingers, so if you just do like, all fingers, no thumbs, you just touch the screen, that's when the virtual keyboard appears. And then using those eight fingers, you can either drag it down to the bottom so that like that's what you see right on the screen right now is the virtual keyboard is
Keyboard
on
at
the
the edge.
bottom, and at the top you've got like little widgets, like Microsoft built widgets that show you like system performance or news or
Mhm.
your Outlook inbox because it's Microsoft. And then
Right.
if you take your 8 fingers and you push them back up, then that keyboard moves up to the top and the entire bottom of the panel becomes one big trackpad. And then you
Oh,
can
that's nice.
kind of see it. Like, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about this in the piece that you're showing. And by the way, thank you /gear.com /gear.com. And then I'm in there somewhere. But so you can like slide over on the side, on the right side there, and there's like a little notepad thing that you can like jot down notes with the pen if you want, and then those save to OneNote because again, Microsoft.
Microsoft.
But so that was just like a handy little thing if you need to jot something down. But I was just and then it comes with a keyboard and the stand, so you can flip around the stand, so you can either stand it up so it's 2 screens side by side or 2 screens top and bottom. It's just such a versatile thing that like it's you can use it to, regardless of who you are or what your workflow is, you will find a way for this thing to work.
Yep.
Right.
And I think like the one Achilles heel that I can see is in that Bluetooth keyboard, because it comes with the Bluetooth keyboard. Actually, wait, does it come with it all the time? I think it does. I think they said it was going to ship, because like some of the stuff that I saw, like, well, depending on regional maybe it'll be an accessory.
Well,
But
and
anyway,
they like to do that with pens too. Is some of their ThinkPad models are designed to really operate with the pen, and that comes included. And then sometimes
right.
it's well, as an optional accessory, you can spend another $100.
Right. But with this thing, the one Achilles heel that I can see is that Bluetooth keyboard, because going back to my X1 Fold review that I did for Digital Trends, I don't know, it was like 2 jobs ago. Anyway, when I did the X1 Fold, that Bluetooth keyboard was very prone to either dropped characters or doubled up characters. So like you'll be writing, I think that this is going to be a great laptop or something like that. And so I asked them specifically about that and said, have you made any optimizations to, compensate for that? And they're like, well, it was 2 years ago, and a lot of advancements have been made since then. I'm like, so no, okay, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like I can see that being a potential.
well, especially
pitfall.
for a business product, because it's like someone who's really relying on like a typing interface isn't really going to want to suffer that. And I can only speak, from my Microsoft experiences. The little Microsoft Bluetooth keyboards have been reasonably good at not suffering those kinds of issues. The picture that I have up right now is where the Bluetooth keyboard is on the screen, and they're doing the little widgets on one screen, and then you've got a full laptop style screen above that. And this to me, because we've seen like Asus play with dual screen laptops where you have one main screen and then like kind of a little ticker, not a ticker display like a MacBook, but sort of a strip screen above your keyboard. And so now that we just have dual display laptops, this idea makes so much more sense to me, where you can have 2 full screens, you can have a little strip screen, you can have a Bluetooth keyboard, you can have a software keyboard. I really love this idea, and Lenovo has done this really well, of flexibility it
Oh yeah.
will conform to what you need in the moment
Hmm.
that you need to use it. Does it wrap all the way behind where you can use
Tablet
one
mode,
screen in like a tablet mode?
if I remember correctly, it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's a yoga, so yeah,
Yeah, it's a
definitely.
yoga.
Oh, so it
I'm
will do
just
the 360 hinge flip.
Yeah, so you can
yeah,
share. You could work on one side, show the other side, or whatever you want to do. Yeah, similar to other yogas.
and also like previous yogas, it has the speakers built into the hinge, so that regardless of which way the screen is facing, the speakers are always facing
Nice.
you, which is really cool. And I'm actually, as it turns out, I wasn't planning this, but I'm actually broadcasting from a different Lenovo Yoga because my main computer just decided to die while I was at CES, and I threw it together
Oh,
duct tape and baling wire. But I'm actually using a yoga with that rotating hinge mechanism, and it was surprisingly loud, which is great, like especially from a content consumption standpoint.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I'm really stoked to see some of this hardware now finding an actual like consumer outlet. I mean, because I'm the nerd with both Surface Duos. I
Yep.
love dual display. Dual display makes sense in my brain, and I'm very anxious about like folding plastic screens. Which, yeah, see that one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Lenovo has also been experimenting with, sort of folding tablet plastic screens too. And I know we're getting better at making those things more durable, but
Hmm.
man, if I could just go two panels of glass, that makes me feel a little more
Well,
comfortable.
I
saves you
agree.
from having
I
to
agree.
carry extra monitors, extra displays, and stuff like that. It just opens up so many capable. I would just say the fact that they built it and then you want two displays, you want them, vertical, horizontal. You want an on-display keyboard, you want extra space. It's very versatile, and I really hope that the retail edition, once it comes out, all of the because the
Hmm.
one when I had a chance to play with it, we had also at Showstoppers. Not sorry, it was Pepcom actually. I think initially there was a little bit of a delay and issue with the Bluetooth connectivity. That was my only other thing that I was worried about. Shows and events when you're trying to take your laptop and you're connecting via
Oh yeah.
Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bluetooth connection always will end up basically, it's notorious because everybody has their Bluetooth on,
Yep.
everybody's connected, Wi-Fi is all over the place. So I'm sure in more normal settings it should be perfectly fine. But that was
Mhm.
the exciting part for me. It's basically looking at it and basically thinking of it as a Surface, the
Hmm.
Neo in real life happening, but then with a little bit of a Seuss influence going on into it.
And
Uh,
going all the way back too,
Yeah.
because like I have been on board. I have been ready for this to be a consumer reality since Project Courier was
Oh, wow.
being talked about, which
Okay.
means I'm old.
Yeah.
I do want to throw just to a
Yes, it
question
does.
here for you two gents here in the chat. This is coming from Dave Burns. How does
Yeah.
Windows 11 take advantage of touch compared to Windows 10? I know that this was a focus, and I'd honestly like to try it. I've had great experiences on Windows 11 with operating system as more of a service.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But for both of you, because you've now been playing with sort of the bleeding edge of like Surface Laptop, Surface Pro, and now Lenovo Dual
Speaking of
Display.
which,
Yup, there it is. It's beautiful.
Okay,
Uh,
so since Adam
look,
brought it out, okay, so here's
oh,
mine with my rugged case.
oh, here's
okay,
here's
there you
my
go.
Surface laptop Go 2, my student laptop. No, but
um,
seriously, so both of you guys have had experiences with it. TK, just starting off, like what? Because Windows 11 looks really similar to Windows 10, but what would you say is sort of a defining difference between those two UIs?
I think it's just the fluidity of the UI elements and the tracking. I mean, at least Juan and I both had a chance to play around with some of the Surface laptops that were launched not that long ago, and one of them is the Pro 9 that I was showing just a second ago. And it's just the tracking, the finger tracking, where it just shows the animation flow very smoothly. The ability of actually previewing different tabs as far as if you want to snap a window either to the right or the left. It's no longer just bring it up and put it. It's you can actually scroll through, and all of that tracking does working much better. And this is I'm talking about just my finger. I'm not using the pen.
Mm.
The ability of getting multiple, it just feels more organized with tabs inside of Windows Explorer, the ability of opening multiple tabs like we open them in browsers, so you don't have to have 6 different windows filling up your window.
Hmm.
You just jump from
Yeah.
one tab to the other. I think those little simple things for me made things a little easier as far as just overall daily activity. Also working in smaller form factors. And I'll bring this back. This isn't the largest laptop as far as you can see, as far as the display, and anything that helps us organize things better, especially the Windows Explorer thing for me, is just been a time saver. Not having to open multiple windows every single time and then having to basically cascade them over each other in case I want to transfer files from, either an external a drive or a drive, other thing. It works really nice. So for me,
Yeah.
I'll say that and I'm sure Windows 11 will do great on the Yoga, because that's literally 90% of what you're doing there. It's touch interface with Bluetooth.
Yeah. For me, I would say, and this is probably not the answer that you're looking for, but like honestly, the best improvement in the touch interface in Windows 11 for me has been Windows knowing when to bring up the virtual keyboard. It seemed like in
Yeah.
Windows 10, like one of the biggest issues that I
Yeah.
always had was like I would tap on a field and like nothing would happen until I tapped on the keyboard icon down on the system tray. And then it would come up and like, oh, here you are. And like now I'm moving on and now I have to close the keyboard. Like Windows 11 has gotten a lot smarter with that, which I very much appreciated, because at Slashgear, one of my primary duties is like editing. And when I get like a 3,000 word, feature that I need to edit, I don't necessarily want to sit at a desk and lean forward and blah, blah, blah. So what I do is I pull it up on the Surface and I lean back in my chair and I'm going through and I'm like, okay, so I need to change that. And okay. And just having the keyboard pop up when I need it to be has been game changing as far as that type of workflow is concerned. Another thing that I think Windows 11 and Windows 10 actually did this pretty well too was the pen input as a keyboard, like when you're handwriting text and it's inserting the text. That has been very slick for me, and I would say arguably between Apple's Scribble and like Samsung's whatever the hell they call it, and this, I'd say this is probably the most accurate. Although I will have to direct you to my TikTok account where I posted a video of me trying to write the word theater over and over again, and it would not figure out that I meant theater. And like I tried theater RE, I tried theater ER, I tried like it was literally like 45 seconds of me trying to write the word theater and it would put in the wrong word and I would scratch it out and try again.
It's like, so, and you want to say like, hey, you have enough AI processing to know I don't mean anteater. What are you doing?
Right. I keep forgetting like what words that it was substituting in, but it was hilarious. Like, and it was just, and like I was having my son video this and he was like laughing his ass off while I was trying to write this out, and it was just crazy. So I did eventually get the word theater to recognize later on in the day, not during that session. I think I had to put the AI away. I had to put the AI in timeout for a minute. And then,
just gotta
go rebuild the library,
about what
please.
you did. Think about your poor choices, AI. Think about that, and then get back to me.
Go to the theater.
To be fair, Scribble on Apple and Samsung, they're both good, but like I just find that Microsoft tends to be the most accurate.
I think I've come to a place, especially after playing with the Surface Pro 9 SQ3, the ARM powered Surface Pro.
Okay.
Like we're definitely in need of an SoC with a little more horsepower, because the Surface Pro 9 can get kind of pokey when you're really hitting it hard with emulated x86 apps. So a little more horsepower would be appreciated, but I think Microsoft is finally getting to that end run around every other operating system, where if you want to load up some Linux apps, it loads directly in Windows 11 through a subsystem. If you want to load up some Android apps, it loads directly in a Windows subsystem. If you want to load Windows apps, you can do that. x86 apps and x64 apps, it does that. Like, it's crazy to me to see how Windows 11 has become sort of a catch-all operating system, as opposed to what we normally think of. Like you think of an iPad. Well, that is a very locked down piece of tech. You can't. You can do iPad things on your iPad, but if you need to do MacBook things, then you need to pick up your MacBook. And here I've got this Surface Pro, and it's literally 3 computers in one, and it's a good consumer tablet, and it's a good laptop, and I'm hoping to see that kind of synergy. The opposite idea of lock-in for an ecosystem. It's
Just
more
openness.
opening
Absolutely.
everything
Yeah.
as an
Yeah, yeah.
ecosystem is really the trend I hope that we see continue with future iterations of Windows.
Yeah,
No,
I totally agree.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the biggest thing I enjoyed about the Pro 9, or I'm still enjoying. So that I'm hoping to put out a video within a week or so now, kind of finalizing my experience. I've traveled with
Yeah.
this 3 different times, and I've been using it on the go and truly trying to push the functions of what I can do with an ARM-based Windows 11, and it has surprised me in every step. So it's a very
Yeah.
nice, very nimble little
It,
piece of hardware.
it sometimes slows you down when you're trying
Yeah.
to like load a photo editing app, but it still gets there.
No, that's what I'm saying. From a minimalistic type of an approach, which I did very heavily on at CES this year. I did not take a single DSLR. I literally took the Pro 9 5G. I had 3 smartphones, which I have with me on the desk. My Find N2, my Pixel, of course, for camera, and of course for video, X70 Pro Plus. That was and then now I'm like all blurry. But no, that was my entire setup. It was very lean. And I purposely did it. I wanted to see, can I hang with all of that? And then literally all my stuff was either edited on the Pro 9 or right on the X70 Pro Plus and posted and managed. So
I'm telling you, like just trying to run and gun cover CES,
Yeah.
man. Phone cameras are where it's at. Adam, what did you carry? Because you were there for a more professional coverage, like with Slash Gear. What does your pack look like now? What are you using?
So I kept it. I kept my show floor gear pretty minimal. I had a Lenovo laptop. I've got like a TCL shoulder bag that I got with one of the review units. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think we all have it.
So yeah, I know.
Exactly.
So I've got the Lenovo Z13, which is a very
Nice.
slim, very compact laptop that fits in that shoulder bag.
Oh, wow.
I carried that with the iPad Mini because I had like my show maps on it, so I knew like where the hell I was going on the show floor. And then for one day, I carried around my old Canon T5i. Just for some,
Nice.
I had one-on-one time with the VW ID7, which is what I was there to cover.
Oh yeah.
So I had to get some nice shots.
We're
of that,
gonna talk about that specifically. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So yeah, I took the camera around for one day, but otherwise, yeah, it was just that, and I had a Pixel 7 and the iPhone 14 Pro, and that was pretty much it. Like I had the shoulder bag and the 2 phones, and that was the extent of my travel gear. I didn't carry any audio devices, which like gave me cold sweats leading up to CES.
Yeah.
Like, do I really not want to take the Zoom? I should take the Zoom, but then I'm like, no, seriously, like, when am I going to have time to do podcast stuff? And I wasn't.
As an old school audio nerd, it breaks my heart that I have a Zoom and an Olympus digital recorder that used to just be like bolted to my hip. Like
Yeah.
I never leave home without them. And lately it's been, this is a completely extraneous piece of hardware that I will almost certainly never need out in the field now.
Yeah, I also considered
crazy.
picking up one of those, like the Rode Wireless Go 2 or the Honeywell. Yeah, exactly. I thought about picking up one of those for the show, but again, it came back to like, am I really going to have a chance to do audio stuff? And as it turns out, I wasn't. And as it turns out, that might actually be a good thing because Anchor has a dual wireless microphone system coming out in the next month or so that I will be interested to check out. Right, very competitor, very much a competitor to the Rode Go 2.
For sure.
So,
well, it's become the sort of popular. I covered when Samsung was the first to really put out a consumer-facing version of this idea. Then Komika came out with a pretty solid one. But what's been most exciting is Rode Wireless Go 2 and newer setups having local storage.
Yes, so local storage is huge.
I would never have used my Samsung at CES because there's too much radio interference with all the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
And now, if I really need to rely on something for audio, I can record it locally and then import that and then work on that audio from there. So again, if Anchor is going to be playing with something, they've been making some great earbuds and headphones. It would definitely be on my short list to take for a test drive.
And the Anchors will also have local recording as well, just FYI.
At this point, I mean, because now it's Rode and DJI. I always get them reversed in my brain that Joby also has a wireless pair of microphones, and they're pretty good mics, but they don't have local storage.
Right.
Saramonic has the same thing. They have a decent one, but just again, no local storage, which I feel like is a big game-changing experience, especially if you've ever lost audio or you've had issues with your your camera, especially on the show floor. You're right. You record on the transmitter, and that's it. It's on the storage, and you can just download it later and use it. And they're
the
pretty
Rode
good.
Have been so consistent that there have been a number of times where I've gone to interview or podcast, and I don't even bother with the receiver. I just pop on the two transmitters, start them at roughly the same time, and then pull that audio later, and I've just trusted that it's worked, and it's been bulletproof. So yeah, I've been a big fan. But I want to get back to the show floor, and I kind of want to circle back because TK, you were checking out. I was following you on social media and just kind of sort of piggybacking on your exploits there. What were some of the gadgets that you walked away from going like, okay, this helps define what CES is looking like in 2023?
For me this year, at least with the general just overall technology, I kind of focused heavily on the main convention center. I didn't go to the Venetian as much. I didn't have a lot of things there. I stayed in the West Hall and the Central Hall, trying to focus on a lot of tech. I had a chance to stop by by the folks over at Qualcomm showing off their car tech, looking over some of the really good battery gear coming up. Razer finally elevating the camera experience on a webcam to fully using a mobile, sensor on a camera. Like, who would have thunk that made sense? There's a lot of little incremental improvements done for me on from a technical perspective. I also had an opportunity to check out a couple of things that Juan and I had we've heard about before playing. I actually got a chance to work with the Vivo X90, the Vivo X90 Pro, and the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. A trilogy of Vivo X90s.
Not all from the same person either. It wasn't like you went to one Vivo person and they had all three. You stalked people across the show to individually get hands-on with all three.
I will say a big thanks to Edabong for the massive help there. Yeah, I had a chance to play with the X90 and the X90 Pro for a very brief time, maybe a couple of hours. But the X90 Pro Plus, I got a chance to spend with about a day and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so I have so much footage on the X90 Pro Plus that I transferred over to my X90 to X70 Pro Plus on there. So from a technical perspective and everything coming up, it's iterative, a lot of hardware coming up, like Samsung showed off their new gaming monitor. It's a newer generation of the big guy that I have behind me. We saw some new battery tech, semi-solid state battery charging for home charging batteries and big, roll-away batteries and so on. Sony coming up with a brand new car that's going to be coming up very soon for us. I think pre-orders start in 2025 . The PlayStation.
Yeah, I definitely feel that one. That's the worst pun I could come up with.
No, serious. It's been crazy. There's a lot of different things from different aspects.
You mentioned it, and there have been a bunch of people already asking questions in the comments and stuff. Android nerds thirsty for BBK brands. I'm so jealous TK got to play with the X90 Pro Plus. I mean, you need to give us some more impressions on what it was like, because you were shooting using the X90 Pro Plus means you're basically using a camera with a phone stapled to the back of it.
Absolutely, yes.
And you're also in a situation where you're testing it under some pretty extreme lighting conditions, show floor lighting, nighttime lighting, and stuff like that.
Absolutely, and that was the perfect time to test it out. The Optimus footage, the footage from John Deere, the footage from seriously, I initially meant to go and cover the show with the X70 Pro Plus. Juan and I, we talked about this guy before. Already a champ, a massive performer, especially for low light. X90 Pro Plus takes that to such an extreme level with like Dolby Vision, the ability of just using the ultra wide being such a reliable ultra wide. It's the camera setup on the system is so versatile, but also very easy and very run and gun. You don't have to second guess the system. You know how the footage is going to come out. What you see is what you get, which I don't know, it sounds like a cheesy kind of thing, but in reality, that's how you know that's how well you trust the system. So exactly, all of the stuff that you see there, the images, with jumping into the LVCC and they're in the car. I was actually taking that, and of course we have all the different options, and I kind of focus heavily on fit TikTok and as well as basically Instagram for the coverage. I did put one short on YouTube, but I'll say the experience with the X90 Pro Plus has been like no other device I've played with before. I didn't play with the Xiaomi the 12S Ultra, so this was literally the first device I'm using that are utilizing some of the newer tech of photography, especially from Vivo. Hopefully, the X90 Pro Plus as well as the X90 Pro do come to the international market very soon. I want to be able to play with them. It has. I think it was the Origin OS. It wasn't even running FunTouch, so that was very much a Chinese edition of the operating system. But it was just so nice. I had it was a very hard, very, very, very hard thing for me to do, is to give that phone back to E as he was getting ready to go, because it was just such a good phone, and he had it in the red color. So I'm putting together a final reel of why I loved the X90 Pro Plus. That's going to be coming out on Instagram hopefully in the next few hours after the show is over here. So you'll get a chance to. But yeah, like the car running on the Phantom in there, or even when I was stopped over our friends over at Nextstock, I shot the whole thing. And the beautiful thing about it, I shoot the content on the X90 Pro Plus. Vivo share it over to the X70 Pro Plus because all my accounts are set up here. With that phone, it would have taken time away from enjoying the phone if I wanted to sideload Google Play, log into account, do all of that for like a day and a half worth of usage. So it's just seriously, I want one. I want one yesterday. I would, it's worth it if you're thinking about it. And I think Barry, if I'm not mistaken, Barry can attest to some of my longings for this device. Origin OS, yeah, exactly. The writing, they had it in there. The G didn't have the right letter under it. I kept calling it Orion OS, but you see it, the G. No, but because the color scheme they used behind it for the red, they labeled it red. It looked like Orion, but it was like it's Origin OS. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was a super nice surprise to have at a show where I wasn't even planning on seeing that. I ran into him, and he's like, "Dude, you want to borrow?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Okay, you can have it for a day." I'm like, "Here you go." He reset it and handed it over. I was like, "Yes,
that's rad."
I'm glad you got a lot of chance to play with it. I met up with Brad over at MediaTek for like half an hour in between meetings, and I was able to kind of like poke at the phone. And actually, most of the time that I was using it, Michael Josh was nearby shooting his own footage of the Vivo phone. So it's like I didn't even I couldn't even talk while I was doing it because he was doing his thing. But I'm really glad that you got a chance to really dive into that, because it seemed like it was a screamer. Like you could. I couldn't find anything that I could do to like slow down that phone. But again, I only had like half an hour with it. So
and the beautiful thing is that the one that you get a chance to play with Brad, which I had an opportunity as well, probably at a different time, obviously. So that's running the brand new the 9200 from MediaTek. So
exactly.
This is serious. This is MediaTek's second generation flagship processor that is just going toe to toe with some of the other options on the market, and that's the exciting part. It's just the fluidity and all the camera gear, the like I say again, it was running a Chinese ROM, which limited certain things for us. But I think once we see the international versions of these devices, we'll be able to enjoy them even more. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like I said, because we don't have nearby share, there are certain things that are not built in. But luckily, I had another Vivo with me, which was my main device, and I was able to use Vivo Share. I had the same issue when I was starting to use, let's say, devices like the Oppo Find N2, because they don't incorporate for Chinese markets. They don't
Bluetooth send over 4K video to another phone.
I was shooting 4K 60 in Dolby Vision in certain aspects. I wanted to test out the Dolby. I was shooting at 1080p 60 on the front facing because that's the best we can get for some of the content. But the overall, it's a beautiful camera system.
Well, and what I'm excited to see is the split between the Pro and the Pro Plus is not as severe as it was for the X70. Where
same primary sensor, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
So that's what's exciting is Vivo has enough confidence in MediaTek's ISP. So again, the top of the line Pro Plus has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, and I think companies are a lot more familiar with image processing on Qualcomm hardware. But they're not minimizing the camera sensor size on the X90 Pro. And that was a really big deal between the X70 Pro and the X70 Pro Plus, was how similar the processing quality was.
Yeah, and same
'Cause-
co-processor. The V2 is also on the X90 X90
and
Pro.
that's a big deal. Is like I think Vivo is saying, hey, we know how to make a really good camera, and we can staple our camera expertise to any flavor of SoC.
Yeah.
Because LG couldn't pull that off. The Velvet with a Qualcomm SoC performed significantly different, not better, but it was a significant difference between the Velvet with a MediaTek and the Velvet with a Qualcomm. So this to me is actually one of the other really exciting things is like if you go to a Vivo and you go to a Vivo X, you're not looking at a gaming phone, you're not looking at a productivity phone, you're looking at a baller camera content creating and low light monster. And you don't want to put a Vivo X label on a phone that performs different. You know, even if it's really good, if
Yep.
you have an X90 Pro and an X90 Pro Plus and the photos don't look the same, that's going to look cheesy.
Weird.
That's going to look
Yeah.
kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we get some news on an international release soon. We didn't get an X80 refresh at the end of last year, and that 1-inch sensor has just been blowing my mind on the Xiaomi. And I really want to see what Vivo's take on that is. And of course, I can direct people to coverage of that phone right now. One Mr. Barry Johnson, who's in
Absolutely.
the chat,
Yeah, exactly.
has already been spending some quality time with that phone. He's been kind enough to offer like, hey Juan, if you want to take it for a spin, let me know. And you're like, dude, I wish I had the time. I don't want to take that phone out of your hands for too long.
Right.
But before we move on here, I also just want to shout out JMan150 on Twitch has gifted a tier 1 sub to Old Trev. So thank you very much for the sub, and I appreciate you not only supporting production on this channel, but then also spreading the love with some of the other people in the chat. That was very awesome of you, J-Man, and I really appreciate it. So I said I wanted to talk about this, and TK, you were talking about cars and stuff, but our resident slash gearer. I don't know. What do you guys call yourselves at Slash Gears? Are you gearers? Are you gears? Are you
I
Gears
think
of
probably,
War?
I'd say probably like gearheads. You know, gearheads.
Gearheads. Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's much better than my lame attempts at a joke.
Right.
I
Our
would have
resident
gone with
slash
the
gearhead.
what grinds your
A
gears.
lot of things are better than
Adam.
your lame attempts at jokes.
Yeah, you've listened to my show, so let me get this queued up here because you got to one of the main reasons why you were covering CES this year was this beauty, which is coming by way of Volkswagen. Why can't I get my screen shared? Come on. Hello, Adam.
Oh,
there we
there
go. So we can go from there. Volkswagen's next EV is the ID.7 sedan with a 430-mile range from slashgear.com, written by one Mr. Adam Doud. So I was hoping you could maybe fill us in on some of the particulars, because I've been really excited for traditional automobile manufacturers to really start driving EV manufacturing now.
Yeah. Funny enough, not really. This was actually a soft launch for the ID.7. This was basically just a reveal. I wasn't allowed to touch the car or open a door. So really what you see is what you get here. No, I do know a few details about what's going to be coming. One of the things that they were very key on hyping up was the intelligent sensing environmental controls on the inside of the car, which will adjust airflow and adjust temperatures based on the occupants, like who's in the car, what direction the sun is coming from. So like if you're driving, north later in the day, it's going to direct more air towards the left side of the car because that's going to be warmer than the right side. I mean, when you think about it, it's one of those things. It's like, what took you so long? So there is some stuff like that. But again, I mean, this is all like theoretical demos. Like we didn't get a chance to actually test any of this. One of the cool things about this particular ID.7 was it had that kind of urban camo paint job, but they used like 40 different layers of electrochemical paint that allowed them to like basically change the color of the car. So they put on like this really cool light show inside like an enclosed space where they could like get various panels of the car to light up with like different colors, you know, sync to music and stuff like that. And so the colors are going back across the car and in front across the car. You know, if I thought about it, I could have sent you the video that I shot of it, so that we could like play a little bit of it. But I think you kind of get the idea. It's again, this is a soft launch. They're going to be launching it for reals in, I think, April of this year. So
Nice.
so stay tuned for like all the cool stuff on the inside of the car. And on the outside of the car, it's just a very slick looking car. And I think really the headline is the 700-kilometer range, which translates to about 430 miles, which is very good in the electric vehicle space. I think based on what the CEO is saying, this is probably going to be more geared towards like a luxury sedan. So it'll probably be higher in terms of price tag, which is, you know, fine. But
well, I just had a question real quick.
Yeah.
So because I'm not as familiar with the Volkswagen electric lineup and the ID series of cars, how big is this thing? Because in one photo it looked like it was kind of a competitor to like a Hyundai Ioniq, and then this back view makes it look like it's a bit larger sort of luxury car
and longer.
So it has
longer wheelbase.
It has a 3-meter wheelbase, so it's about 9 feet between the wheels, and it's a 15-meter total car length,
chassis,
if I remember correctly. Yeah. So it is going to be fairly substantial on the inside, and this is built on the same platform as something like the ID4, which is also actually very comfortable on the inside. My wife and I are actually car shopping at the moment, and the ID4 is the leading contender, not just because Volkswagen sent me to to CES. And actually, I was really hoping, like in the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping that one of the execs would come up and say, "Oh, so you're looking at the ID4, huh? Here, take this card and give this to your dealer, and they'll just give you the best price that they can." But nobody did that, unfortunately.
Sweet.
That would have been pretty sweet.
That's not a thing, unfortunately, with our dealer market, right?
Yeah, that's not a thing. But anyway, but it was cool because since I was there with VW actually had like a fleet of cars available to take us to different places if we needed to, and I got to ride in the ID4 quite a few times, both in the back seat and in the front seat, and so I got a pretty good idea as to like what the comfort level is like inside the ID4, which is, you know, kind of important when you're buying a car.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, so I mean, from riding around in it, is this sort of? I'm assuming by your tone that this has helped give a positive impression to your car shopping, that this looks like the vehicle you might choose.
It's a leading contender for sure. There are a few EVs. We're definitely going EV. We've made that decision. And there are a few EVs from like Chevy, and actually Hyundai has a few compelling choices as well. But there's a couple from Chevy that we want to take a look at that aren't coming out until the summer. So that's the only reason we haven't like really, you know, committed. That's definitely what we're buying. You know, the Blazer EV and the not Tahoe, Tacoma. I don't know. I'm not a car guy, which is really funny. But yeah, so Chevy's got 2 of them that are coming out this summer that we want to take a look at before we really pull the trigger. But yeah, the ID7, I don't think it will be a contender for us because we're looking more for SUV because, you know, we're suburban family people. So that's what we do. We drive SUVs. It's the law. So, but yeah,
and
the ID7
it's not a state law either, which is weird. It's like a federal thing.
It is. So. I think it's actually a global law. It's from the Illuminati. It's an Illuminati law. If you're living in the suburbs.
That was a long walk to get to that punchline.
It was. It really was. You know, come for the knowledge, stay for the bad humor.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was. But yeah, the ID7 does look compelling from what I could see about it, but the fact that I wasn't able to open the door does tend to change. Does tend to, you know.
I was hoping that they were like actually doing. I don't know if like I think it was Tesla way back in the day would do like little short ride-alongs and stuff like that. So I was hoping you actually got to like
I think they did some
climate-sided
automated
stuff, but-
autonomous rides, I think, or something like with their local cab. They did it a few years back, but
Yeah.
they still had their the Tesla loop, or the convention loop that was still going on. That was actually nice to try.
Yeah,
Got a chance to get into one of those.
I did too.
So
I actually use that quite a bit, really.
Yeah,
really,
it saves you
Really?
tons of time.
Come on.
Yes. No, I mean seriously. So you have to understand that the walk from the LVCC Central to the West Hall is
It's
not an
Oh,
insignificant walk.
I know that the
is-
walk is like a 20-minute, 30-minute walk. What I
Yeah.
mean though is like the dubious benefit of that project at any kind of scale.
At any
Like-
kind of scale, yes, I 100% agree with you. But it was kind of cute to try it out a couple of times. My main use case for it was actually to get on there, heading west, to get away from the LVCC, so I could actually catch a ride share at Resorts World. That was actually like
no,
my
seriously.
main use case.
That wasn't. Yeah, it's like 3 times, 6 times the multiplier effect on Uber is like crazy.
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, for me, it was primarily going between West and Central. I think there was saved me 20
just
minutes each way.
Can't believe you guys were using such a claustrophobic death trap with any kind of regularity.
Well,
you
and
can't
I
even
wore
like
my-
open the doors to get out if there's a problem.
I wore my mask every time I rode it just because I knew it would piss Elon off.
Take
He's watching the footage now. It's like, dang it, he wore the mask. I was
Doud!
actually I was surprised
account
when I
suspended.
first got into it is that it wasn't fully autonomous. I thought for some reason being that it was. No, it actually
It was
it's just a
supposed
regular.
to be.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's
it's-
no
it's
way
really-
they can count on full autonomy when there is no ability to
escape?
safely escape or maintenance, or if there's a problem and one of the cars wigs out because it's fully autonomous, you have
Yeah.
trapped all of those people in a tube.
in that tunnel. Yeah,
In a tube.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, but at the same time, I agree with TK. This is a controlled environment. This is about as good as it's gonna get. Now,
Yeah.
I was told I was sent a document on Twitter from someone on Twitter that supposedly showed that the fire department would not allow autonomous vehicles in those tunnels as part of the permitting
Yeah.
process. I mean,
Yes.
that does
Correct.
make sense. I haven't verified that that's actually the actual document, but,
But
it does
I-
make
it-
sense.
I completely, I mean, again, that to me is not an outlandish, like, oh, the state's interfering with private industry, blah,
No.
blah, blah. No,
No.
it's a giant hole in the ground with cars going through it with no safety apparatus or ability. I mean, like, if you build a subway, you don't
Well,
build
okay.
a tube that the train goes in. You build an entire infrastructure of tracks and pipes and tunnels and maintenance corridors and ducts. And
I
that way,
agree.
if something happens, you can save everyone's life.
I agree.
You don't
but
just
at the-
bore a hole in the ground and go,
I-
go fast.
but at the same time, while this is all happening, Elon Musk is charging customers that are spent like tens of thousands of dollars on cars an extra $10,000 or $15,000 just to sign up for their full self-driving beta test. Meanwhile, he can't make a car drive 1 mile through one lane with no other people by itself. Where's
Yep.
the logic there? I mean, like that's the part that I cannot wrap my head around. Safety, fine, I get it. But at the same time, like if it's safe enough to drive out in the real world, it's safe enough to drive through a single tunnel, single file.
Single file,
I
well controlled
complete-
program. Absolutely. No, I mean, seriously.
completely disagree, but that's
Okay,
that's
that's
not
fair.
really the point of the podcast.
Agree to
Well,
disagree.
it's because it's only one component. You can say that the car is updated to this or that, and then look at how many times you just see like a gas-powered car just broken down on the side of the road, or someone
Sure.
wasn't paying attention and they ran out of gas, or any number of human elements that can clog up a single lane of traffic in the sort of real normal world that we have with freeways and stuff. If you don't have an infrastructure around your tunnel to fix a problem, you are dooming the tunnel and everyone inside
And
of
all
it.
its occupants.
No, absolutely. But for me, like even if it's not even autonomous, if you think about it, they could have built just like I would say basically
track.
a track and have the cars sitting in them, and people just get in the car and get out the car the other side. That would have
Interesting.
been more functional,
If you just
like
build
a
like,
Disneyland
okay, so
ride, right? You
hold
jump
on.
on
Yeah.
and
Let me try and like imagine what you're talking about. So now we put like some type of seating arrangement in an
yeah.
enclosed vehicle, and then you put that vehicle on tracks,
Right.
and people can
Yeah.
just get on and off.
Wait,
That's
I
really
think I see where
interesting.
you're
You know,
going with this.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
And
If
you know
only
what?
It's
someone
called
had
Magic
invented
Mountain, my
that.
friend. It's
You know
called
what?
Disneyland.
You wouldn't even
It's
be
called the
limited to a
subway.
you wouldn't be limited to a car form factor. You could
I
actually
know.
stretch out longer cars.
I
Like,
don't know if
oh
it,
wait, actually, what if we built them in segments so that they could
yes,
actually go
and
around?
that way
Yeah,
so you could handle curves better too.
right.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Yeah,
I think we're
god!
really onto something here.
we might be.
I'm obviously
An,
being
an
super
underground
facetious
bus
with
system,
all of
maybe?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, like a
but
bus.
I don't know if you guys remember. God, it was like a year after Uber had really started operating at scale. So this is a little while ago. There
Yeah.
was a Silicon Valley startup that was going to revolutionize how people commuted because they noticed there were a lot of these traffic patterns where people would live in one place and go to work in an urban center. So instead of like Uber, which is really inefficient, it's like a taxi, it's one car for usually
Right.
one or two occupants, that's not great. What we're going to do is we're going to make these vehicles, these larger van-like vehicles on pre-planned routes. And then you would
Oh,
just pay a subscription to like an Uber-like service, and you could get on at one point, and you could get off on another. And this was
fascinating.
like huge headlines. I mean, I'm serious. Like all of the tech
Mhm.
press were like, "This startup is going to revolutionize how people commute." Blah 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 blah. And it took one joke on Twitter
They
from
invented a
someone
bus.
screenshotting it saying, "You just invented the bus," for the entire startup to completely crater.
No kidding. You know what's
And
funny?
I,
I've actually
Predetermined bus, pays a subscription.
let's go on a tangent
Yeah.
here. I've actually had thoughts about like somewhere between a bus and an Uber where like it would go on predetermined routes, but it would also divert into like side streets to actually pick you up at your home,
yeah,
and then it would divert other ways to go, to drop
like a
people
shuttle
off.
service.
So
Yeah.
it would be like a hybrid bus shuttle service, and I could get on board with something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
But if
And I
we
think
yeah.
that's what like Uber was trying to do, but I don't know anyone that does like Uber as any kind of ride share.
Yeah.
Like
Uber Pool was
I've never even
big before the
tried.
pandemic, but I think that's the problem. Is now more people preferring to be by themselves and not have like the one thing with the rides on at the loop that bothered me a little bit was the fact that it wasn't private. You were actually
Right.
grouped with other people.
Yep.
Yep.
So they always ran a full car, and I was like, I didn't sign up for that, but I was like, I was like, making sure I was like, luckily the people that were when we were a full car, they were staying to their side. I was staying on my side in the back seat, but it was still uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
got in a car with like a whole bunch of people I didn't really want to jump in the car there, and I just dropped something on the floor again, as I
Oh,
typically do.
TK. I know like Elon is working so hard to separate himself from like the filthy pores, but occasionally you just got to mix it up with other people, man. It's a thing.
So
It
can we
happens.
We
use
make
this?
friends.
Can we use this opportunity to segue over to another company that I saw at CES? That
Heck yes,
they
we
weren't. They
can.
weren't actually participating in CES, but they're headquartered in Las Vegas, and they have kind of a similar thought process when it comes to like personal transportation. I went to go see a company called Halo.car, which
Okay.
is right now as they exist, they are an electric vehicle rental company. So you go to their website, you say, I'm at the Venetian, I want to rent a car. They will bring a car to you, get out, hand you the keys, and say go. And
Okay.
there's a piece coming on this on Slash Gear later this week, so keep an eye out. But what they're doing though is, and this is the really interesting part, is right now they have a driver that will bring you the car, hand you the keys, and say go. But there is a small area of downtown Las Vegas where they will deliver the car to you via remote pilot, which
Oh.
they have a whole system set up with off-the-shelf parts. I mean, seriously, they have a Logitech steering wheel and Logitech pedals and an Elgato Stream Deck
Oh my
that
god.
Wow.
allows them to remotely pilot the car to wherever it needs to go. And right now there's, like I said, there's a small area in downtown where they can do this.
Yeah.
And they are currently in their, I think they're in their second phase. There's like a 4-phase system where they're rolling this out along with the city of Las Vegas, where right now they're in their second phase where the car still has a safety driver, that doesn't touch the wheel. And I was able to ride along in a very short ride with a safety driver and being remotely piloted. But like phase 3, they're going to be doing like a chase car with like a remote shutoff button just in case something goes wrong. And then when they hit phase 4, which I think they said would be possibly later this year, it will be completely remote piloted. And so the opportunities here are obvious. Like, you can just get a car anywhere you want, leave a car anywhere you want, and it just goes along its way.
Scooters.
And
we're back into welcome scooters.
Right. And when it comes to like a cost benefit, like the cost isn't that bad. It's like $15 an hour to rent the car, and they cap you at 8 hours. So I think it's like $90 or something like that. The math isn't working out. I can't math right now, but it's like $15 an hour, and they cap you at a certain number of hours. So it's not that bad if you wanted to do like a day or like a full
on their
day
site right
like
now.
that.
They're saying $80 a day.
Oh, $80 a day is where they cap it. So, and you can, and it's like a fully electric vehicle, and you can really just try it out. But I think the really cool part is the remote piloting to you, and just the fact that they use all these off the shelf components. If I sent you like a picture, did you want to take a look? Like I can send you a picture of like one.
I've got the website up right now. We've just been kind of scrubbing through that. It's to me, that's a really interesting hook for a new type of rental service where you don't have to go to a hub and pick out the car and walk around it. They just kind of drop it off for you is kind of huge. But again, it's cracking me up that like, we joke about like latency and lag in video games.
Right? In the car, and you didn't get that thing, and there's that 1 second, millisecond delay, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I get it.
Right. And what's funny is like, you complain about latency when you're playing video games. When you're driving a car, it's totally cool. It's totally chill. Right. But no, so what they're doing is they have a service provider that actually uses all three AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon signals, and they just basically pick the best one where they happen to be.
You'd have to.
So I mean that's basically kind of how that works. But
you'd really need like that uber redundant, not Uber as in the car company, you'd need that ultra redundancy that at no point could the car ever possibly fall out of communication with the data network.
Right. And even if it does, even there's like a threshold that the communication has to be at, and if it ever falls below that threshold, the car just executes an emergency stop. And and like a fairly a short, and there's signs on the back that say don't follow too closely, that type of stuff. So it can.
I'm working from home. Sorry, I had to. Don't follow too closely. I'm working from home.
Right,
I'm driving this car.
But it's just really cool. Like, and I like one of their founding philosophies is something that I've been thinking about for years. Is that like when you buy a car, it sits for 23 hours a day. It just does nothing. And so just having the ability to have a car, and I think that's what autonomous cars are kind of driving towards, is let's make our cars more useful when you're not using them. And so that's what this company is trying to bridge the gap between where we are now and when we have full autonomy and we can just let cars go do whatever it is they do
for us.
And one of the things that he was saying was, eventually we want to get to a point where, we drive our car to the train station and then we say, okay, I want to earn money while I'm at work. Boop, and you push a button and the car just goes and drives off and earns money in various ways while it's while you're sitting at work, and then it comes back to you when you need it. So I mean,
like Dave Burns is. Well, Dave Burns is writing about, I'm a big fan of those leave the car somewhere in the city and just have a rental fob kinds of services.
Yeah, like a Zip car.
I can't remember the name of any. Zipcar, thank you. I couldn't remember the name of that service. And again, it's like we're taking these little baby steps in really novel ways. But just again, the thing that cracks me up is yeah, you wouldn't really need to reinvent how do you control a car. Like we
Hmm.
do have really good like
Well,
digital
so
representations
uh,
of and like
Qualcomm
gaming
was showing
gear
their yeah,
handles
but
that really
so
well.
Qualcomm was showing also some of their tech for autonomy. That was the demo I got a chance to ride in. It was basically a retrofitted Lincoln with the Qualcomm
Yeah.
tech to kind of show
Oh,
how
neat.
they do the tracking, and so we're getting to the point. I actually flat out asked the guy in the car. I said, "Is this something? Do you see this at some point? Somebody maybe wanting to retrofit their car, like a DIY type of a solution?" Because the car that we were in wasn't made as an as an autonomous car. They
Okay.
retrofitted it with the cameras, with the sensors, and all of that. And the reality is, yeah, he said, yeah, I can imagine it being something people could do. Obviously, not easily, like just plug in this box into your car and boom,
Right.
but that's at some point we are going to get to where our cars need to be able to do more, even if it's like you said, ride share, or even running and using some of the compute power to maybe crunch or do some processing for you when you're not using it, because our cars are, giant smartphones.
I want to
If
run
you
SETI off my car when it's sitting in my driveway.
yeah, no, yeah, and the video that Juan's showing right there, yeah, all of the
I'm
sensors that you see
trying.
there, yeah,
Well, I'm
the
gonna have to
antennas
do
on the
just like a
back.
regular screen share here. Hold
Yeah,
on
yeah.
one
No,
second.
and so they wouldn't
That's
let me
not
film
working.
in that car, but later on I was able to go to their show floor in the West Hall. We're actually pretty close to John Deere. And they showed all the custom, basically the UI elements and the tracking information, the categorization of cars, the vehicles, the tracking of just signals, changing signals from one side to the other was crazy. And they did a demo for us. We were here in the car, but for me, it's the fact that it's tech like this that's becoming more accessible, and we are going to see more and more cars, even standard gasoline based cars, having these
Yeah.
features, not just electric vehicles
Yeah.
that we've seen so far. I
Well,
think
Yeah.
that's
that's
the
going to be
exciting part.
the most difficult hurdle to get over
Hmm.
is I don't think we can have true autonomy so long as human operators are not communicating with self-driving cars. And I've had this thought for a while, but you could plug, like a very short range. We had a piece of wireless spectrum that
Hmm.
just recently got resold for phones and for communication, but it was
Oh, the 700, yeah.
dedicated to I forget what frequency it was at now. I
I think
used
it
to
was
have
the
all this stuff
700, wasn't
memorized.
it? Wasn't it the
Well,
700 spectrum,
there was
or is
something a
this?
little different though, because it was set aside just for
Oh,
sort of
okay.
ultra wideband style communication between cars. And
Hmm.
then no company ever really made anything for that. And so it just got reabsorbed in the last like Spectrum
Mm.
buy off or
Hmm.
Okay.
sell off, I should say. But until what I do in a car is broadcast to other cars around me, I don't think a computer can anticipate human irregular behavior.
Oh no, absolutely, like a
Oh,
hive
right.
And
mentality where
Right.
they could able to communicate from
yeah,
each other and
well, but then
learn. Like, yeah,
also,
oh, you need to go. I can go after it. You're right. We need that
and,
system set
and
up.
to have the domino effect, because the biggest problem that we have on freeway driving is someone does something unexpected, the car behind them has to brake a little bit more aggressively than what was anticipated, and that
Right.
ripple can last like 2 or 3 miles on
Mm-hmm.
California roads.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a system where something immediately happens in front of you and then a chain reaction of signals are sent out to all of the self-driving cars, then those cars can better anticipate and there will be less of a traffic
What will have to
slowdown.
happen? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And
I
so
get you.
and really at some point we talk to insurance companies and we say, hey, I'm going to be trying to do this. I have to plug something into my car. This should be safer for the roads. That should give me a break on my car insurance. Like
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
we need to make the infrastructure sort of more attainable for
Yeah.
consumers who won't have self-driving cars but still need to participate. The only other solutions that I've seen are people saying like, hey, what we could do is carve up all of our city streets and put in sensors and broadcasting and like data infrastructure. And you're like, that's never going to happen. We can't even
Yeah. It
get
makes
fiber to
more sense.
home.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to just outfit all of the
The
other cars on the
cars.
roads with the little computer plug-in things that I already
Hmm.
use to track my mileage in
Well,
Right.
my
actually,
car.
Yeah.
if you think about it, Google already kind of uses something similar to this with their navigation software. They
Hmm.
learn from people being stuck in traffic, and it starts
Yes,
telling people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this
totally.
is the this is ingenious because they give a free service that everybody loves to use. But in reality, when you get stuck in traffic, you're telling everybody else, hey, there's traffic in this road. Use something around it or your route's going to be a little bit
My
slower.
loss is your gain. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. No.
For
But I
sure.
think
Yeah.
to a
damn
certain point,
socialists.
I want to see that tech improve. The biggest limit that I found so far with the existing tech that we have, which I don't think I asked this gentleman from Qualcomm, they haven't still done any kind of improvement on I want to call it basically, like the ladder in the road or the tire in the road or
Yeah.
that thing on the road that we typically will try to avoid. At this point, with the existing ecosystems that we have, even with the Qualcomm system, they don't recognize that. My Tesla doesn't recognize that there is a piece of tire in front of me as I'm driving. It just drives over it if I don't see it and go around.
Yeah.
We need to get better at that level of tech because those are the little incidentals that you were talking about, Juan. If somebody for some reason drops a ladder and your car doesn't recognize a ladder on the road and then you go over it, now you're causing the delay.
And it's so difficult because we need to be able to train models where obviously if it's something like a cinder block falls off the back of a truck, you want
Exactly,
your
yeah.
car to react to that and
Right.
Exactly.
avoid that because that's a dangerous obstacle. But you also don't want the car to freak out if someone dropped like a Trader Joe's shopping bag. You're like, we're so
lemons
far
from the
drive
lemon
over
truck.
that. Yeah.
we're
Hardcore.
so far from our car being able to make good choices in the severity of the response.
Yeah.
Because going over a cinder block is dangerous enough that you would want to make a scene in traffic. And then hopefully other people will brake behind you and no one else will go
We'll hit
over the
that
cinder block.
Yeah.
That's what
But
and
you
those are
don't
the
want
thing.
your car to react the same way if it's something like a plastic shopping bag.
Right.
That would be way too dangerous for all of the traffic around you to have your car freak out about that. It's that kind of stuff that like you think of the challenge like, okay, well, I want a car that can drive by itself. Cool. I grew up watching Knight Rider. It shouldn't be that hard. And then you think about every single moment-to-moment decision you make operating a motor vehicle, and you're like, this is impossible. This is functionally not possible until I have a computer that can literally outthink me. And at that point, why would I even leave the house? Like
Right,
I'm just basically
send
a
the car.
Matrix battery. Plug me into a giant bottle of goo.
I was gonna
and
go.
let
I was
me-
gonna go more like Wall-E type.
Oh yeah, this is the floating chair.
Yeah. We all just
the
sit on the chair.
floating chair. But so can we can we transition? Since we're talking about Snapdragon, can we transition over to the other thing that Snapdragon rolled out at CES?
That
was
I
the
can
other
tell
one.
that you host your own podcast.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, hey, now that TK was talking about Qualcomm gear, Mr. Adam Doud also got to play with some Qualcomm gear.
I could
in the
not get
form
myself
of-
into that on that
of
tour.
a
I tried.
phone that does really cool things for emergency situations.
Yes. Yeah. So Qualcomm introduced what it's calling Qualcomm Satellite, which is the ability for a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 bearing phone to communicate with Iridium satellites, which are low Earth orbit satellites that are basically cover the entire planet. And Qualcomm is bringing what it's calling pole-to-pole messaging, which is everything from the North Pole to the South Pole and everything in between, which is the whole planet. So Apple this past fall introduced the emergency SOS satellite. If you have an iPhone 14 and you're stuck out in the middle of the woods or out in the middle of a desert and you don't have a signal, you can send for help. And over a period of a few minutes, you can send a predetermined text message. I am at such and such coordinates. Here is how I'm feeling. Here's what's happening. Someone please come get me. And that will go to emergency services. Very valuable.
Yep.
Well, Qualcomm said, "Hold my beer," and rolled out this basically what is essentially the same service, but instead of it taking several minutes to deploy a message, it can do it in seconds. I mean, and literally like 3 to 5 seconds to send off a message to emergency services if necessary. But in another step above that, you can also do any kind of two-way messaging with anybody in the world. So you can be out in the middle of the ocean and you can text your wife saying, "Wish you were here." And and that's kind of like
Wow.
the really, really cool part. And There's a couple different layers here. The
Mhm.
emergency services are going to be handled by Qualcomm and Garmin, because Garmin has an InReach service, which you
Yeah,
can,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you can do a subscription for, and if you get lost or something, you can send an emergency message via satellite, similar to what you can do with Apple. But then Qualcomm stopped just short of saying everybody with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 phone will be able to do this two-way messaging, because they're going to leave that up to the manufacturers as
Yeah, of
to
course.
how they implement that. Which, I mean, as Juan and I were kind of chatting off air, OEMs are almost certainly going to screw this up, at least in the first batch
Oh,
of
for
Yeah, yeah.
phones.
sure. Oh,
Because
guaranteed.
yeah, but I still think probably within the next year and a half, 2 years, give or take, this will probably become like a normal thing that everybody can
Yeah.
do. Probably also iPhone users as well,
Well,
to be
well,
honest.
and also to ask, because this is the one thing I wasn't quite clear reading through some of the press releases, and you seem to get a little bit more info just from the PDF that I got.
Yeah.
Is this already baked into their new modem, and then it's just a licensing agreement that an ODM would have to
It could be.
sign up for, or is it like a separate
Little bit of column
component?
A, little bit of
A little
column
bit of
A,
comment.
little
Okay,
column
okay,
B.
okay, okay.
So it is built into the modem. The communications capability is built into the modem, but the radio frequency equipment that you would need to communicate on the band, which I want to say was somewhere around the 1600 megahertz, if I
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah.
correctly. That is not one of the standard 3GPP, I believe is what it's called,
Hmm.
frequencies that normally go with cellular technology. So
Okay.
you would need to have those RF bands built into the phone in order for it to
Gotcha.
work. So you could crack open like what's a Samsung Galaxy S23.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You could probably crack that open and see the modem in there, but it probably won't have the radio equipment that it needs to communicate with the
to communicate,
satellites.
or the antennas or anything like that that would work on that.
Right. So they
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
anticipate that we'll probably start to see phones that can handle this probably around the second half of 2023, because they just
Makes sense.
rolled out this stuff, but they're already working with some OEMs to make it work. So
I'm sure.
I would actually be kind of surprised if Samsung wasn't on board that train, but I think it would probably be like you'd probably be looking at like the Fold 5 rather than the S23, because
Yeah,
I think by the time Qualcomm came up with all of this, most of the phones that are going to come out in Q1 and
yeah.
Q2 were probably so far along in
Well
development
planned.
they didn't have the capability to like cram in more radios just
And what
to
we're seeing, because
let you
I
text your
have the
mom.
iQOO, I have the iQOO 11, and what we've seen some of the early leaks on the S23s, it kind of
Mhm.
seems like the running theme of first half of 2023 is going to be a bit more mainstreamed, not watered down, but streamlined,
Mhm.
nice phones. So instead
Yeah.
of like really trying to rock everyone's socks with like $1,200 Uber phones, they're all going down to like where's like Apple's weakest product segment? It's in $400 to $600.
Right.
So that to me does not speak of a phone manufacturer looking to spend a lot of money on R&D, wiring antennas and dealing with different radio technologies. That
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
me speaks of later in the year we can do like a super phone with like the refreshed components halfway through, and then maybe we'll see a little bit more room dedicated to additional
I,
radio
I
technologies.
wonder if this type of technology would work when you're on a plane, though.
That's a good question, actually, and
Middle,
nobody asked that question.
you know what I mean? Like a middle of
Oh
nowhere,
yeah.
you're flying from one continent to the other. Obviously, there is internet. There's satellite internet, which is technically what you're
Yeah.
kind of piggybacking off of. I
Mhm.
would, you know what? I may send that question in, but seriously, like
Yeah, that's
for
a
me,
very good
that
question.
because you are able to have more of a conversation, it is faster. It is not, 3 to 5 minutes. So the approach to this, which I feel like even the airline industry, mobility, traveling,
Yeah.
especially for people that love to go out and, like you said, I'm on a boat, wish you were here type of an experience.
Yeah.
It would
Now
save lives, especially for people that, we always hear in California, a lot of people like will find that are lost, or
Oh yeah.
they got separated from their group going hiking, and then
Mm-hmm.
don't find them for days. So yeah,
Can I
things like that.
can I hit you guys with a stat?
Sure.
Do
So,
it.
this came from Iridium, and I'm inclined to believe it, and I will tell you why in a second. But 85% of the planet lacks cellular coverage of
That makes
any
sense.
kind.
That makes sense.
And
Yeah.
and the reason it makes sense is because 70% of the planet is water.
Yeah.
So so when you do that math, you're like, okay, so the last 15% is like Siberia and northern Canada and the Mojave Desert and stuff like that. So
And
I mean it
huge
really
stretches of just rural areas across the country. Yeah, for
Yeah.
right.
sure.
Right. And so, something like this, you automatically go to like middle of the ocean or, middle of the desert or something. But I mean, you could be in the woods in Nebraska and not have cellular coverage. And,
Yeah.
and if you fall and break your leg,
That's it.
you'll be able to
You're
say you're done. Yeah, basically.
yeah.
Um,
Without some way of communicating, you're dead.
yeah, exactly. So, um,
Oh my god.
so this could very well be a literal lifesaver, and I'm positive when we get the iPhone 15, the at least 2 minutes of the initial presentation will be dedicated to people whose lives have been saved by
Yes.
satellite communication. I'm positive that's
Absolutely.
going to happen. Uh, but like I said, I like how Qualcomm is going just one extra step and allowing
Mhm.
like actual just two-way messaging, like
Yep.
like you would. And in terms of the airplane, I kind of wonder, like at the one hand it makes sense, but at the other hand, when you're in a plane, you don't exactly have a clear view of the sky because you're kind of in a
Yeah.
metal tube. So I
Yeah,
could
sure.
see maybe that might be actually kind of a problem, but I think
Well,
there's so many other ways to communicate on a plane. I think we're probably okay in that regard.
yeah, I would wonder if there's also some issue with external radio communications en masse. So if you had a whole bunch of people trying to do satellite stuff,
While you're on
you
a
know,
plane.
yeah, like I feel like Wi-Fi is acceptable because Wi-Fi exists in its own sort of narrow field, and the plane is
Mhm.
doing its external communications to provide you that Wi-Fi signal internally. And I
Right.
wonder if there would be too much interference with navigation systems and the plane's
That's true.
communication systems if everyone is trying to reach out to their own satellite. But I just want to point this out, Adam. And one
Yep.
of the reasons why this tech will probably fail is because in this photo that you've shared, the phone that they're using to test it on has bezels, and that made me throw up in my mouth.
It was reference. It was a
So
reference device, dude. Get over
no,
it.
see, so no, Adam, you can't
You
have
should.
any type of functional being able to hold the phone and not interact with the screen space. That is disgusting, and I
Oh, you
can't
should see the
believe
back of the phone.
you shared a link with a phone that has bezels on it.
You should
So
see the back of the phone,
obviously
man.
this won't be as good, and no one should ever buy anything new.
Right.
And this tech has already failed.
Oh,
So
I should also
that's
point
a
out.
shame.
I should also point out that Qualcomm mentioned that this is probably going to be a flagship tier device
Oh yeah,
service. At least initially, but they could
Of course.
see situations down the road where this could like navigate down to the medium to the mid range.
it's got to be so much like because where did we go split modem? That was Snapdragon 865.
Hmm.
So it doesn't make a lot. Unfortunately, from a manufacturing and profitability, I don't mean in terms of what would be nice to give consumers, but it really doesn't make sense to put the most expensive modem in
Yeah.
Qualcomm's lineup and
Right.
design that phone around really expensive proprietary, not proprietary, but single use types of antennas
Radios.
and radios and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Totally.
Unfortunately, that amount of machining and engineering and RF guidance
Hmm.
absolutely doesn't work if you're going to then flip the phone for $200 MSRP where it's free on contract. That
And
that that phone unfortunately doesn't exist.
And
Yeah.
also, let me also temper expectations by saying I saw a demo. So this was in the hands of Qualcomm, and they probably had a pretty good idea of how it was going to work before they brought a bus full of journalists out to the middle of a
For
desert to
sure.
test it out. So, I mean, this was a demo. We'll see how it actually works in real life. So, temper your expectations in that regard as well. But yeah, it was not by far the most. clumsiest demo that I saw while I was at CES. So
Ooh,
that it's got
pray
that going
tell,
for it.
what was the clumsiest?
I would say so. There's a company that I went to go see just because when I tell you what they are, you're going to be like, of course you went to go see them. It's a company called Displace TV, which
Mhm.
is they built a 55-inch pretty much bezel-less TV. I mean, it has a teeny tiny little itty bitty bezel. It's
Mhm.
basically a box that is entirely wireless because it's powered
Okay.
it's powered by 4 different batteries that are hot swappable, and you mount it to the wall with a vacuum, or with its own internal vacuum. You basically vacuum suck
Huh.
it to the wall. And when you think about it, like,
Okay.
installing a TV is a pain in the butt in just about every respect.
That
You
is
have
such
to.
an infomercial pitch right there. Has
It
this ever
is.
happened to
To
you? And it
you.
cuts to
I
black
feel
and
like
white
I should.
footage
I
of
feel like
someone
I should be in
trying
black
to
and white. Yeah.
awkwardly mount a TV on a wall, and I just can't get it to hook
So
on, and I don't know how arms work.
you take this TV and you just hold it up against the wall for like 5 seconds, and it just like sucks itself to the wall, and then that's it. Now, another
Please tell me you saw the demo and they dropped it. Please tell me you saw the
no,
demo
no,
and
no,
they
no,
dropped it. Oh,
no.
okay.
So the one of
We're waiting
the
for the awkward part, by the way.
I know.
The lead
on
up
the
is
edge
nice.
of my seat. I
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
for
yeah.
the whole seat, but I'm only using the edge.
part of the mission statement of this particular company is that remotes are not a great way to control a TV. So they have like a gesture based controller
Oh,
system, and you can see
yeah.
where I'm going with this, can't you?
Yeah. Now I immediately know the awkwardness.
Yeah. So they were
TK's doing his interpretive dance of trying to control a TV with his arms right now.
Look at me right here. Okay, now
That's
turn on.
brilliant. I loved the finger, the jazz hands. That's what's getting
Jazz
me, right?
hands.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
yeah.
I apologize
yeah.
to people only listening to the audio of this because I've
Yeah.
got 2 amazing dancers on this stream right now.
Yeah.
It just tickles
So yeah,
me.
when they tried to demonstrate the gesture-based system, it wasn't working too well, mostly because the CES floor is a Wi-Fi hellscape,
Oh
Yeah.
and
God,
so they
yes.
were just having trouble with like connecting to the proper TV and blah blah blah. So I'm just like, yeah, sure, remotes aren't a good idea, because I kind of think remotes are a good idea.
Yeah.
But no, it's actually really interesting because you can set up multiple TVs to all stream the same stuff at the same time. It streams through like a base station that you like put in a closet, so like you can actually have like you could take 3 TVs from 3 different rooms in your house, put them all together for the big game, have a bunch of people over and like watch the big game on this like huge TV, and then when everybody goes home, you can take the TV back apart and put them back in their own separate rooms, which I mean that's
Mhm.
kind of cool when you
It
think
is.
about
That
it.
is kind of cool. Yeah.
Now I want to say the price of a TV is in the quadruple digits. So for a
Oh.
55-inch TV these days, that's not awesome. Um,
No.
but yeah, so it is a smart TV. And by the way, there's also no cables, so there are no HDMI ports or anything like that. So I
everything
asked,
over the air.
I'm like, what about game systems? And they said it's probably going to be like a separate unit that like sits below the TV that you can plug your game system into, which, okay. But I think they've got enough of an idea that like this could be kind of cool, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like you need a remote control for this thing, guys.
Well,
I mean, you really
and again,
do.
it's maturing, and then also trying to piggyback on, because like TK, you got to go and see it. I actually have it here in the Gadget Lab right now, which is the Next Dock.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
The new Next
I
Dock
know.
wireless.
I get there and they're like, "We sent one to Juan already." I'm like, I mean, "Yeah, but yeah,
So
Then where's
but,
mine?
yeah."
But when you start playing with the reality of what like wireless signal transmission really looks like, you're like, man, I don't know that that's the gig if I want to try and hook up like a console, right? If
Yeah.
I'm trying to do like
From that,
you know,
yeah,
or a
exactly.
gaming PC or something like that. So we've got a ways to go, but eventually I think that notion of a completely cableless
Portless.
TV,
Yeah, yeah.
completely portless, completely cableless, it's just a big flat panel. And what's funny is I would even hope it would be a really big dumb flat panel, because you wouldn't want to use the extra power to run a mini computer. Because that's going to be a big deal in the EU, is they're going to start going after power consumption on TVs. And it doesn't really make sense to keep building in increasingly powerful computers into the TV when we know we're already going to be connecting them to other sources and stuff.
And that was the other thing, is they're offloading a lot of the processing into that base unit that you put in your closet. So basically the TV is just reflecting what it's supposed to. There's no like real thinking part about it. And also the other one of your Gregory Owl asked, what happens when you turn it off? So the vacuum stays engaged, and the vacuum so the TV will hold power.
So crazy.
So the TV will manage power for up to 180 hours of watch time, which is about six hours a day for a month. And like I mentioned, there's 4 batteries. It can run off of 1 battery, and the other 3 batteries are hot swappable. So you can kind of like put these batteries into a rotation where you have like 2 in, 2 out charging, and then switch them when it's time to switch them. So in theory, this is indefinite amounts of power. But if you're going away for a month, take your TV off the wall first.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Especially if you live in California.
Right.
Well,
otherwise,
it shouldn't take a ton of power to maintain a vacuum seal.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Like once you suction on, like use suction cup. Once you use a suction cup, like a suction cup should last for a really long time. That's how a bunch of us are using like dash cams and phone mounts and stuff like that. So as long as it was just sort of regulating the pressure with little bits of like, oh, it got kind of humid today. Let me squish it just a little bit tighter. That shouldn't be too bad. But you're right. Like that would be a completely different kind of television maintenance. Hey, we're going out of town for a bit. Better take the TV down.
Right?
I guess is not a thing I've ever heard someone say before, but could be in our future.
I'm still trying to get used to the idea that we don't have entertainment centers anymore with like the big boxes where you put the TV and like all the other components. I'm still trying to adapt to that. Now I just have a TV that I can like I keep thinking about the Steve Martin in the LA Story with like sun.
Yeah.
You have like a TV, you can be like TV.
That's hilarious. And also, thank you for referencing LA Story.
Of course.
That movie is amazing.
LA Story is amazing.
Before we get to just the last sort of nerdy thing that I enjoyed watching from afar, TK, there was one other little Instagram video that I wanted to point to here. I'm going to go back into a screen share. This might fail spectacularly like it always seems to. Come on, share the video. There we go.
Oh, look, so first try.
I knew you were going to go for Polly. Yep.
Yeah. So I just published an article, a written review on the JBL Quantum, the true wireless earbuds that have a little dongle. And no sooner do I get this published, but literally like the same day, the folks at Poly announced this product coming out, and I was hoping, because you got to actually see it in person. Tell us about what's going on with Poly and making some low latency wireless audio gear.
Okay, so this was actually something that I totally passed, didn't even get a chance to see. But then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you got to check out these buds. These look really, really cool." And I'm like, "Okay, let me go check them out." So the premise here essentially is making the case for your buds a very functional case, like actually making it do what it's supposed to, and that makes your life easier. The thing that sold me on this is the fact that it has a built-in Bluetooth transmitter to your buds if you connect it to a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack to a source that doesn't. And the case that they were showing in the video, like right there, it's coming up. It's plugged into the audio system on the plane, and then suddenly you now have Bluetooth connectivity. Now, the concept is so simple, but it is ingenious.
I'm in.
Topping it off to the fact that it is wireless charging on the case, full control of volume, track control, active noise cancellation on and off, pass-through mode on and off. All of the functions that you have within the app that are typically built into your smartphone are on the case.
Holy crap, you're selling me more and more.
It's like when she was showing it to me, and they have 2 different options of there's I think the 600 series, the Voyager 600, I think is the one that doesn't have the full functions, but that's the inception part of this. This is an enhanced version coming out in I think March or April, a little bit later. And the main thing about it is, for me, when I saw it, like, it makes perfect sense. I always have my case with me, and I don't want to keep having to bring out my phone and change ANC on and off. Yes, you have control. It has swipe control on the earbuds, as well as predetermined function on button configuration on both ears. So
Mhm.
supports aptX, SBC as far as the best audio, and then of course AAC in there from Audio Codec.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and they really did a very, very good job, and it's Microsoft Teams certified. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that was whatever the other primary, like WebEx or something like that. It's certified to work
Yeah.
with Microsoft Teams, which made it requirement to be very functional, I guess.
I just need to point out that the second you started talking about this, El Jefe Reviews popped up in the chat.
Jeff is like, what?
He's like Kool-Aid Man,
his
but like audio man.
with audio.
Oh
I was gonna
yeah.
say his spidey
Bursting
sense
through the
was
wall.
tingling. There is someone discussing audio on the internet, and I must go and appreciate what they're trying to discuss.
This to me,
I don't know why that became my voice for Jeff. I'm sorry.
No,
Jeff.
no,
That's not how you
absolutely.
talk,
But Jeff is enjoying that. The demo itself and using them was actually, setting it up was very simple. It pairs over. There's a QR code for configuration. You can configure it to your PC, your smartphone, dual pair. Like, seriously, all of the features that you want. I couldn't
Yeah.
obviously test them out. These weren't production, and of course, I was just not going to put anything in my ears. That is not mine.
Show floor, just
I'll
pop
say
it in.
that.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, not
What
doing.
could
Yeah.
go wrong, TK? I say to
Possibly
you
go wrong.
on my open
What could-
comms using bone conduction because I'm still working off another ear infection. So,
Yeah, so
you know.
for me, this is why I called these the best buds of CES for me, because they won me over. To, like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, there
Yeah.
was other innovative technologies.
Oh,
One of
sure.
which that wasn't meant for men, and I say this because there were earrings, the clip-on earrings with built-in speakers for
very
for
cute.
ladies to be able to listen. And then they came. I was talking to one of my other friends, and she's like, "You look great, TK." She was complimenting me with an earring on. I said, "The only way you would get me to wear those," I told her, "is if you make these into a Katara earrings from Dragon Ball, and then you will see me walking around
There you go.
with those guys." That's how you sell it to guys, because this is primarily a girl type of an
I don't know.
experience, clip-on stuff. But
I've got gauged ears. I think I'd just be fine. Like, you know what? I would gauge my ears up bigger if you
Just like-
actually did like boom tubes, like literal, like just put
Just get the
like a
audio-
couple
put the-
drivers in a tube, and I could just shove them into my extended gauge, and then
Yeah.
like just kind of blast audio directly into my ears, and everyone around me would hate me, and I would love it.
Well, these had a very short range, so you could hear them if you were basically, let's say, giving somebody a hug, and they had the speaker running. You would be able to hear the audio, but literally more than this much distance between where you are and where the earring is, the audio doesn't play. But I still think these guys, the 600s win it for me. I think from a
I really want
technological
to
advancement.
just kind of dial this back because I don't know if people know who Polly is.
So I want to say that they explained it to me, but essentially, isn't it a recent acquisition by HP? So they're technically an HP sub brand at this point, if I'm not mistaken.
But you know who they were, right?
Yeah, that's I can't. I know the name and I can't come up with it.
Plantronics, sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's so.
Sorry,
so okay.
that's where the poly comes from. Yeah, I couldn't remember that.
So this is very much like that, kind of that fork that we saw from Sennheiser with their gaming gear, now going under the EPOS label. The Poly label it's sort of the new like consumer and business side of what Plantronics used to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why I'm kind of stoked and why I was so happy that you got to see it was. I got to play with the JBLs, and the JBL Quantum line is all about gaming. So obviously it's not about having like the highest quality Bluetooth audio codec. It's ultra fast latency, like no latency, I should say. And so here, now we're seeing kind of the flip side of what if you took some of these similar concepts and like a dongle, a little Bluetooth plug that lives in the case so that no matter where you're traveling or what you hook up to,
exactly.
you can immediately connect your earbuds to that and take
Ultra
a
low
conference
latency.
call.
Yeah.
That's legit.
That to me is now, I mean, like, so now we've got the gaming solution of this over on the JBL side. Plantronics, they make some consumer gear, they make some gaming gear, but their focus is corporate. And so now we've got the business version on that other side too. So again, like this is one of those things, if we want wireless audio and especially true wireless audio to continue improving, we've got to deliver every single little solution, like gaming headsets versus sort of corporate communication, earbuds for music and entertainment and movie listening versus earbuds for again, I just lumped all of those together. So anyway, I saw that you got to actually check them out. I saw the press release on it and it was like, oh, those look cool. And then I saw your Instagram reel pop up and it was like, oh, cool, TK got to actually hold them. So
I'd be interested to see how they sound, because like Poly has really transitioned over towards like more of a Zoom meeting as opposed to heavy metal music kind of.
But that's exactly the kind of point though, is like those JBLs. And I'm sorry, TK, I'm kind of stepping on your
no, please,
because you actually caught the Polys, but the JBLs would not be high on my list if you really wanted to listen to high quality music and you loved like jazz or classical or even old school kind of like rock and roll. They're way too thumpy. But the thump has a very sharp low frequency attack, which is perfect for action films, for action games, for gaming, and it doesn't step on dialogue. Like they're really good at getting human speech out, but the highs are kind of dull. So you wouldn't want to listen to singer-songwriter or woman in a piano, but you fire up a Schwarzenegger flick or you fire up your favorite game, and your in-game speech is able to kind of live underneath the rumble of all the battle sound effects. And so I think like what we need to do is just kind of properly point out, I would not turn to a Plantronic if I wanted audio fidelity.
Yeah.
I would turn to a Plantronic if I wanted the absolute best clear calling, the best sort of speech articulation, highlighting, now interoperating with other things if I have to travel.
Absolutely.
It's an easy headset to plug into another computer and jump on a call, and I have my headset. I don't have to use the
plug it into the hotel TV,
that's,
plug it into any source of data, any source of audio that comes up.
So immediately accessible, and I didn't have to pair my headset with an unknown computer. So that to me becomes the big hook is we need different audio solutions for different audio conditions. And again, we just need to be upfront. Like, hey, you can listen to music, you can watch movies, you can play games on a pair of Plantronics. That wouldn't be high on my list for those types of media fulfillment. But again, it's right tool for the right job. Because I want to transition just real quick because in talking about audio gear. And things that you can listen to, I think this would be the perfect place to transition to one of the last pieces that you did,
I didn't get
Adam,
a chance to see that one yet.
Where you actually got a photo of yourself using this thing.
Yeah.
And it looks so ridiculously hardcore nerdy that I kind of do want to try it.
You should.
So
Adam Bain, essentially what we're going to call it.
And I just watched Dark Knight Rises again recently, and so now I'm very much interested in trying to imitate a Bane voice when I'm doing my audio reviews.
So look, when I got the invitation from Dyson to come to come look at these, I'm like, yes, I will absolutely come and test these, and I will dunk on these things for the rest of the year. This will be like my go-to joke. Like, yeah, but have you seen the Dyson Zone? But no. So, and you know what? Honestly, when I walked in, and I sat down, they had one of the engineers, David was his name. One of the engineers, these things have been in development for 6 years, and he's been working on them for the last 3.
Wow.
So like when I heard the story behind them, I'm kind of into it. So, well, first of all, let me just preface this by saying the headphones sound really good. I mean, like really, really good. And the active noise cancellation is mind blowing. Now, and I point out in my article that I've never listened to like the AirPods Pro Max, and I've never listened to like a Sony
XM
alphabet soup letter headphones. So,
XM4, XM5, it's not that hard.
It's kind of
hard.
hard.
Sony hater.
It's
Come
on.
Hard. How do you even say Suspiria XIIVI? I don't even know how Roman numerals work.
Anyway, so the active noise cancellation is awesome. Like they had they had a suite in the was it Cosmopolitan, I think, that overlooked the strip. You could see the fountain of the Bellagio there. It was really pretty. But for some reason they had like some AC unit like on the roof of the casino next to like their balcony. So like you go out there and it's all like ah! you know, and you double tap the thing and you hear a sound that sounds like thump, and nothing. Like right around, I want to say, and I'm guessing here, but about 4,000 megahertz, you still heard a little bit of a whine, but as soon as you started up music, gone. Like it was
That's
just
awesome.
It was, I mean, and then okay, and so take that total noise isolation, add to that the Bane face mask that delivers 99% filtered air into like a sort of a bubble in front of your mouth. So it's not blowing air like straight up your nose or anything like that. It's
Right.
like dispersing like so like if you look like when you look at the side, like the mask is kind of like here. It's not it's not like a face hugger thing. It's like it's hovering out like
Right.
in front of your face. So it's like delivering this like cushion of air basically where you can breathe like this 99% filtered stuff. The name Dyson Zone makes perfect sense because you are basically in your own little world, both from an audio standpoint and from a breathing standpoint. And so like
Fair.
it's and if the
What you
sound
needed-
wasn't as good as it was, I would write these things off.
Yeah, for sure. But you needed these on your little Tesla loops so you could like completely disassociate yourself from other
Right.
people in the car.
With a,
Right,
with a couple,
exactly.
well, of course, pair that with some XR glasses from TCL, and then you're pretty good. You're pretty.
So there,
I just don't want to be anywhere near you in the universe. So I'm going to completely block my eyes, ears, and mouth from being near you.
So to answer Adita's question, these are over ears, so they're very much like the Rhodes that I have here. They've got the super big cushions, and actually they have cushions made of the same material going across the headband too. So they're actually very comfortable to wear long term.
They look real cushy
as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the engineer like took them apart and like showed me. I like that one picture where I'm kind of like, that's fun. But he was showing me like the compressor that they use to like funnel the air through the filter, and he said each one of those compressors had to be basically individually machined to reduce as much vibration as possible.
Yeah.
So he said like when you balance your tires, they add weights to your tires so that they can spin without vibration. They do the same thing with the Dyson Zone, only they drill out a little bit of material, and each compressor is like its own little snowflake because they're all unique because they've all been machined that way to reduce vibration as much as possible. And so like Dyson didn't say this, but it occurred to me like while he was kind of giving his pitch, like we just got done wearing masks everywhere we go for the last 2 years. And some people aren't even done doing that. So I'm kind of wondering if this face mask is all that objectionable, really, when it comes down to it. So like, I'm not convinced that I will wear it all the time, but like if I see someone wearing it, I'm gonna be like, I get you, boo.
Yeah.
So
no,
like,
actually, I mean that really has helped because I still mask up, when we go to Costco or Target. I mean, again, there is a new strain on the rise. My Marie recently had to deal with getting sick. My daughter got RSV at school. I mean, like the thing about the pandemic and why it's so frustrating that mask wearing got political and woke. It's just a super practical way of not spreading junk.
Humans are gross, people.
We're flipping filthy. And it's okay to try to minimize some of that. And so now, I mean, like, if I saw this, or what was the Razer? Didn't Razer have like a concept, like hardcore, like mask? Again, like we were talking about Bane. It's like
the Bane mask.
It was a digital hardcore RGB'd, face mask. I'm for it. Let's
Yeah.
actually explore this as a consumer thing. I've been playing with things like I did like one of those cooling neck bands, and like you walk around like that and you think like, oh gosh, this must look so nerdy. Except like people walk around with stuff around their neck and headphones around their neck and things like that, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
you know what? I don't think anyone really cares anymore. I
Yeah.
don't think it's really that thing. You might get a couple side eyes on something like this, but no one's gonna be like, oh, look at this guy. He's wearing
Yeah.
something on his face. Oh my gosh. Like, I think we need to go for it. I want to see some more companies actually making gear like this because it looks cool.
Yeah, and so what I want to do is like when I get it in, like I wore it for 20 minutes in a Nevada desert. So like I don't know anything about like how this is going to look or feel long term.
Right.
So when I do get this to review, you know, there's going to be a few walks downtown Chicago. There's going to be a couple of train trips down, you know, going to downtown
Oh,
Chicago.
heck yeah, dude.
And I want to look at other people's faces and see what they're thinking while I've got this you know, Bane mask on. But again, like I'm into it. Like I was expecting to walk away from that demo dunking on this thing for the rest of the year,
Yeah.
and that just it was like a complete 180. Like I'm actually kind of into it now. So yeah, I mean, and yes, they are expensive. I want to say they're like $1,000 or something like that.
Oh, I'd be shocked if they were less coming from Dyson.
Right, coming
Yeah.
from Dyson, and you know, but I mean, like in terms of audio, that's kind of where like high-end headphones are, and I would probably like
yeah.
these sounded better than just about any cans that I own right now.
Oh wow.
So,
I mean, on
yeah.
my channel, I've reviewed standalone enthusiast and audiophile cans north of $4,000.
Sure,
And those are
yeah.
just headphones. Like they don't even have like batteries or radios built into them. You just sit and listen on your nice headphones.
Yep.
Right.
So again, I don't think people, I don't think they always appreciate or understand like how crazy audio really can get. This doesn't seem totally ludicrous to me. It seems expensive, but not
Yes.
outlandish.
Yes, and
Definitely.
actually, I'm in. Like Ron Guido says, maybe we could all just wear stormtrooper helmets. I'm into it.
Do it.
Let's do it. Let's go. Let's
when
go,
I was a little
baby.
kid, I had like like those mask helmets. You can put one of those on, or you can still get what was the voice changing Optimus Prime helmet when the movie, the first Michael Bay movie came out. Like, you know what? Instead of going to VR to make our ridiculous Ready Player One dystopia happen, we should just have real world Ready Player One dystopia.
Yeah.
We'll all wear our
exactly.
favorite character helmets out in the real world, but with good air purifying and disease prevention.
Absolutely.
But I gotta say, when I was testing these out, like from an audio standpoint, like my ears were destroyed by 12 years playing in a metal band. So like, I just kept thinking, I'm like, you know, Juan needs to try these out, and like El Jefe needs to try these out because I bet you would get a lot more out of it.
I'd be really curious to see what Dyson's take on premium audio really sounds like.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of companies have tiptoed into that space, and it's funny because you crest a certain threshold of price, and there are significantly different expectations from headphone junkies. And like to me, it's like around $400, and the price to performance changes in very specific ways that a lot of consumers, you never get into audiophile gear and have those kinds of conversations.
Right.
So I'd be curious to see, you know, like for example, like TK's wearing Baradynamics. Usually I'm on just some earbuds, but like I've got my Odyssey up behind me. Stuff like that shifts. And I'd be curious to see if Dyson's take is more AirPod-y, or if it's more like, you know, like we're listening to a certain segment of consumer experience and we know these are going to be expensive, so we brought this to the audio discussion. I think it would be interesting to kind of play with. It'd be really interesting to see like what tact did you take in tuning your premium tier face mask headphones.
And when they were developing these, they wanted to build something that would help reduce noise pollution and air pollution. So I mean, like they came to these from a noise pollution standpoint. So they didn't necessarily say we want to build premium premium headphones. They built premium noise reduction headphones.
Mhm.
So, which is, a pretty,
it's different.
it's a big
That's different.
distinction. It's a
Yeah.
very big distinction. So, but again, it kind of like it makes sense. Like once you know the story, it's kind of like when you wear a Hawaiian shirt at the wake of somebody who like really dug Hawaii. Like a lot of people are going to walk in, they're going to look, and they're not going to ask for the story. Like, why are you wearing a Hawaiian shirt at a wake? That's inappropriate. But
Right.
you're doing it because you're honoring like the person who died, and it's a very rough analogy, and I appreciate you sticking around for it. But it's like you need to hear the story in order to really fully appreciate like where these are coming from.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
for sure.
and then you get to have a more nuanced conversation with people. Like I was saying, like the difference between Plantronics and JBLs, right? That difference matters a lot because someone's looking at like, how do I spend $100? Well, what do I do? What do I need to do? What do I want to do? Can I balance what I need versus what I want? That $100 starts to get really precious when you're trying to pick and you're only going to buy one thing and you're not nerds like we are, where we've got, on my desk, I've got 6 different options for audio. If I need something specific, I can do something really specific. I have 3 pairs of earbuds on my desk, and one of them I like way better for electronica. The other I like way better for acoustic, classical, and old school rock.
Yeah.
People don't spend money on earbuds like that.
or you're like me and you have like one set of earbuds for this phone, one set of earbuds for this phone, one set of earbuds for this phone. What phone am I carrying today? The iPhone? Oh, that's the Liberties. Okay, I'll take those.
Yeah, I'm doing that with smartwatches too. Like, my Sony, I've got my Sony paired with my Tick watch, but I've got my Pixel watch paired with my Pixel. But if I need to work out, I should probably take my OnePlus, which is paired to an Amazfit. That's not average consumer.
No, it is not.
No,
it is
no.
not. I told several people this, like, when I'm talking to Uber drivers about like what I do, I'm like, my life is a niche case. So it's really hard.
In fact, you know what? Don't listen to me. Do the opposite of
I have
what
no
I
idea
do.
what I'm doing. So, and I've built a career out of that. Thank you very much.
So,
/gear.com.
I want to, Adam Doud at /gear. I tried going to, for some reason, /gear.com/Adam Doud. That doesn't take you to what you do. So don't do
Adam Doud. That'll get you there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That probably would have worked better.
It's WordPress.
So I just want to wrap up the show because CES to me this year seemed to be like I kind of feel a lot of trade shows are still trying to figure out their new identity. Like E3, complete crash and burn. Like the gaming industry does not rely on trade shows, these big events, to talk to their customers anymore. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they all talk to their customers directly through their own sort of media channels now. You don't need to have an E3 where everybody shows up and waits in long lines and gets to demo a game for 5 minutes and then write a text article about it that someone will read a week later. That doesn't exist anymore. And it seems to me like CES is taking a track towards more lifestyle, automotive, and health technologies. So obviously the big phone announcements are going to be coming with MWC. Some flavor of Computex is probably going to be more our computer, like hardcore high-end desktop servers, laptops, that kind of stuff is going to be more Taipei later on in the year. What were your guys' thoughts like? Because CES is just getting back up to speed. This show felt more normal, but not quite at what CES used to be. Do you think that that's the direction we're going to be seeing headed from the Consumer Electronics Association?
I still feel like computing has a pretty big presence at CES. Definitely not phones. Absolutely not phones. I am the absolute wrong person to send to CES, to be honest. But yeah, I still think that computing is a fairly big part. You've got Asus, you've got Razer, you've got Lenovo, you've got HP. They all demoed like new stuff. Nvidia. And so they all demoed new stuff there, which is great. But I think like I get the feeling like CES is kind of like a preview show, like coming in 2023. Here's what you're gonna see. Whereas, like I think with a show like MWC or IFA, you're getting more like on the spot announcements. We're launching this phone today, as opposed to like CES is more like, here's some great tech, and we're going to show it to you in April. And
Yeah, almost
yeah.
everything that was announced is coming out later in this year. It's none of
Right.
it is like,
Yeah,
hey, it's available to
for
buy.
sure.
But yeah,
Exactly.
so
Yeah. So I think that's part of its identity, is like kind of a showcase of things to come.
yeah, and I think well, to that matter, and I feel like it's something that they've been doing for quite some time. For me, the opposite. I will say, from a computer standpoint, absolutely, Adam's point there is very much there. CES has been, for me at least, I always look at that as a computer, our version of Taipei, if there was a version to be said,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we were not going to have Computex here. When it comes to mobile, for me, I've learned that within last year and this year, more and more, that I need to start focusing more on MWC than it is to focus on CES. Hence why it was a 3-day short trip for me. I didn't really even plan on, like, it was. I planned out everything I needed to do, where we got into the hotel at about 3:30. By 4:30, I had my first meeting the day we landed.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was
geez.
that
Okay.
level of, I'm hitting the ground running because
Efficiency.
I need to maximize those 3 days. And
Agree.
and then every day would come back like around 11 o'clock or whatever, and then wake up at 6 o'clock and hit it up again.
Do it
But
again.
the focus for CES, for me at least, would be more towards building relationships, working with brands, and starting to
Yep.
see some of the
For sure.
the new things coming up. So for me, Qualcomm was interesting to see. We got a chance to talk a little bit with TCL. I got actually to see their next generation of augmented reality glasses that
Yeah.
Those are
are
neat.
kind of
Yeah.
like the Focal by North, a little bit more functional with the camera, UI, and elements.
I'm so stoked for these new birdbath optics, because that was the main drawback of Focals by North, and now we could do AR so much better.
So legit. And the demo that we saw this year was so much more functional than what we saw last year. So those are the things I got excited for, to see also some of the display tech that's coming up. Gaming also was a big focus. I didn't realize TCL made ultra wide monitors for gaming. That was something that
wow.
we're seeing more.
Yeah.
TCL showcasing their own technologies outside of what we know them typically as just TV and manufacturing of phones. But MWC, again, this is where we're going to hear about all of their 2023 devices for the 40 series. So yeah, I'm going to be shifting more. So for me right now, my main thing is I'm trying to figure out how to get myself to MWC which is literally not even 2 months from now, less than 2 months, end of February.
So JMan 150 just said 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So we at least get a little breathing time, because I remember some years where we get a little breathing time from New Year's to CES, but then it was like CES, Samsung Unpacked, MWC, and then something else would come up. Was all at the same time. So at least there's a little. We didn't get any downtime in between. New
LG
Year's
used to
and
be
CES.
right around this neighborhood too.
That's right.
Oh,
LG used to do their hands-on. They wouldn't do as big an event, but there was always like a hands-on to do.
Yeah.
So I just want to wrap it up. This was one of the, because you guys were saying there was a computer presence, and obviously there was. I mean, they had Dell and Asus and HP, and
MSI, Asus, yeah, exactly, Lenovo.
So I've been very interested. Cooler Master has started branching out more and more into like more of their own premium monitors, more of their own pre-built desktop systems.
Oh, wow.
And they took the wraps off of a pair. The one that made the most headlines. Let me go back and screen share.
Hello.
Hello, everyone say hey to Adam. Screen share didn't do what I wanted it to do this time.
Adam Doud, brought to you by Cooler Master, sir.
Yep.
So this is the one that I saw a bunch of friends checking out. This is the Shark X custom PC.
Oh, that's crazy.
It is a vertical shark. So it's like a shark jumping out of the water on like a huge RGB style monitor stand.
That's insane.
And it's a full PC. And you can kind of, I don't think you can really pose it a lot, but you can kind of route it around. And like all the cable management goes down into the tail, which then goes down into the base.
Exactly.
This is going to be a very limited production computer case. This is actually going to be sold to no, not that it's limited edition, that it's really going to be sold.
Oh, right.
Usually you go to the shows and like you see stuff like this and they're like, yeah, we just took an artist and we made this thing and that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's never a consumer facing product. So a lot of folks geeked out on that.
Take pictures of this. Our computers are over there.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like the Halo idea of a product. But this will apparently actually be sold in some limited quantities. But the one that I geeked out on, Cooler Master also showing off a concept for their Sneaker X. And I flipping love this. It's like
Oh my
if
God.
Optimus Prime wore Asics.
I was gonna say it's
Yeah.
like
It
a
looks like
Lego
a
shoe.
Yeah. I like the spring
it's
on the
like,
side there. It's like, okay, yeah, for better
yeah,
suspension.
like you've got shocks.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm gonna reach out to my friends over at Cooler Master. I definitely don't have room to own anything like this or display anything like this, but I'm not too far from like where I might be able to just go and see one in person, and I
That is
really
nice.
want to check out
Oh, look at
like
that. Look at that.
what
nice.
that
Yeah.
and it does is it's got a little mini projector, so like again RGBs and fans and like water cooling that looks like actual shocks and struts built into the robot mech shoe. But I saw that and this was the thing that I literally saw and went, I'm so sad I couldn't go see that in person. I would love to like go up close and get some really fun shots of that in person. The Shark X, like people were freaking out about, but this to me just looks like I could actually own that. I could buy that. I would definitely want to display something like that in my office.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like it's that tall. Like, I mean, if you think about it, look at it. It's not as tall
No.
even as the monitor. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, this is very compact and very doable because you could definitely see like a rectangle fitting into it. And like I said, the compact setup, it shouldn't be too complicated. The wiring should be pretty decent. The Shark, that would be my nightmare, just the ability of how to wire everything out.
Yeah.
And get everything set up to correctly with the amount of port. And I would imagine the limitation of amount of, you'd have to have some kind of an external USB 3.0 dock just to kind of get all the wiring done correctly because of the limitation of how many wires. Yeah, but exciting.
And then it's a vertically mounted tall PC that if it gets nudged.
True.
It will be
Maybe
mounted.
How do
and
I get my
strapped
graphics
in.
card into here? Where do I plug this in? I don't get
Right?
Oh my god.
I need to troubleshoot. Yeah, no.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just
4090
kinda,
into that one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let me shove a 4090 in
90
there.
into that thing. Yeah, let me see how that goes.
Not
Should
a
be
thing.
fine.
But yeah, so Cooler Master is going to be making their own pre-builts now. So I'm really interested. I think one of their first is going to be sort of last gen AMD, but for a gaming rig with the 5800 3DX, I think is the CPU name that I've just butchered. But then also AMD graphics cards too.
You mean the 5950X?
5950X, thank you.
Yeah, because that's what I'm using. Yeah, I was like,
But no.
The 58
Which is the
58?
one? There was a specific gaming build which had like a different cache arrangement. I might just have to go to the Cooler Master website
because they also announced their 7 series, the 7900s.
Oh yeah, but I think the first pre-built that they're going to do is going to be sort of like more mainstream affordable. Because they've made great cases for a while, but they're now putting all of the guts in, and a really top spec last gen machine is not going to be crazy expensive. And I think it's a good way to kind of kickstart their brand of making of making like a gaming PC for the masses kind of a thing. So I think that's what their strategy was. I'd have to go digging for their press release now. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, so especially with like how expensive components are getting now, I don't know that you'd get nearly as many sales if you built everything around, Intel 13th gen, AMD, new Zen cores, and Radeon 40 series. I mean, not Radeon, RTX 40 series.
RTX 40 series.
That is probably a bridge too far for a lot of consumers out there. So, yeah, it's some pretty exciting stuff. So I'll be harassing the Cooler Master folks just like, hey, I would like to play with your new computer systems, and hopefully I can kind of.
Juan will have a
showcase
shark
some of
behind
that.
him the whole show from there on, and or a shark and a shoe. Maybe put the shoe under the shark and just set up the dual running PC system.
I need them to do like a dual system so the shark is jumping out of the shoe.
Sure.
And then I'd need to install an entirely new like breaker just for my office to power both of those systems without blowing power to my whole condo.
Or you just shut the house down every time you turn that PC on. It's like, honey, we can't use the regular stuff. You gotta,
And to close out the show, I feel Jeff has the mic drop moment here. Shark, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dang it!
Steak
I'm
is on a
mad I
boat.
didn't think of that joke first. So Jeff, thanks, man. That was perfect. A shoe Sharknado.
NATO.
So guys, thank you so much for jumping in. I was really bummed that I wasn't able to hit the show. I had kind of had loose plans to go for a couple days and just kind of hang out and visit with people, but work, of course, kind of superseded all of that. But I really appreciate you both taking the time to come and share some of these experiences.
Absolutely.
I'm really glad that we're seeing PR get back up to speed. I think over the last year, we saw a lot of PR agencies kind of struggle. You know, it's like you've got to be in practice. You've got to like be in shape to handle all these media events. And we've all been to a few where it's like, ooh, this did not go well.
Right.
And so getting a show like CES like functional again is going to take a while for companies to kind of figure that out. I want to wrap this up. Adam.
Yes, sir.
Especially because we've been showing off some of your article links and everything, but just can you reiterate for folks where they can kind of keep up with everything that you're doing and all the work that you're producing right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm on the Twitters and I'm on the Mastodon now, reluctantly, at Dead Technology. So you can follow me there. I'm also have my own little podcast that is kind of pivoted more towards a YouTube channel called The Benefit of the Doud. So you can search that at, youtube.com/benefit of the Doud, all one word, my last name, Doud. And I've been freelancing with Gear for the past about 6 months now. So that's pretty much my main and pretty much only gig at this point. But that's okay because Gear pays the mortgage. So
Nice.
you can find my work at Gear. I'm doing predominantly like behind the scenes, like editing, but I'm also doing a lot of reviewing there too. So
that's great.
It was during December I did so many reviews that I was looking at our task management board, and I'm like, wow, did like nobody else produce reviews other than me? And then I realized I had a filter turned on, so it was just showing my stuff. So like but at the same time, like there was enough there that I could have justified like this was an entire site's output.
This could have just been my site,
right? Yeah. So and there's going to be more to come because like a lot of the meetings that I took at CES were about setting up for reviews in 2023.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's a good part of what we do at CES as well is build those relationships and start talking 2023 plans and
I met so many PR people for the first time, that I've been working with for years, and like putting a face to the name was amazing. So yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Well, and again, just from having like kind of been in the trenches with you since our Pocket Now days together, I'm stoked to see you at Gear. That's a great fit for you right there. So I'm stoked to see you doing some good work.
It is, except for how heavily automotive Gear is, and I am like the least car guy on the entire team. Like when
no, that's actually what's good though, is that you're kind of bringing some other perspective. Like for you to do a car piece brings a perspective that isn't just a part of what becomes editorial echo chamber. So that's also a good thing, and
that is a good thing. And I'm learning so much about cars just from editing articles. So I can actually like hold a conversation with people that know cars now.
That's good.
Yeah. So
that's great. And TK, of course, I mean, I'm sure everyone in this chat probably already knows, but where would people go to keep up with TK MyBay?
Absolutely the easiest thing, just TK Bay on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and a lot of my coverage on CES, as Juan was showing before, was basically put on Instagram. I feel like it was the right format and the easily mobile computing setup that I was trying to set up. It actually proved itself very functional, which I'm really happy about, and I'm looking forward to taking that. But yeah, TK Bay on YouTube, Arabic if you like, it's Tariq Bay, but otherwise it's just TK Bay, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And Facebook somewhere.
And of course, if you're catching this show or watching one of our streams, you probably already know where to find me at Some Gadget Guy all across the internets and on the Patreon, where again, we appreciate all the people who are supporting production for content creators of all sizes. And this is one of the podcasts where I didn't really quite get the plug for the subreddit. If you go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, it's a whole community built around trying to support content creators and share content that you feel deserves more attention. We can always use more participation, more comments, more upvotes, anything that kind of helps take some power back out of the algorithms that feed us content, we can use some of our own time and effort to help promote the content that we feel might have slipped through the cracks. And so hopefully you can check that out. Once again, reddit.com/r/glowing rectangle. So folks, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in this. We're going to be back next week with another episode of the Monday Morning News Chat. Definitely cover a bit more of the tech politics, because there was a lot going on that we pushed pause on this week just so that we could kind of focus on our CES recap. That's going to be coming back in full force next week. Thanks so much for everybody tuning in, for showing up, for joining this wonderful chat, and for sharing all of the content from all three of our channels and through all three of our publications and the work that we do. Folks, I want you to have an amazing week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology, and take care of yourselves so that you can take care of others. Catch you back next week. I love you all. Be well.